How is everything your end, Fringe?
Everything is great. Everything is great. I think we had a pretty good space on Tuesday. We were able to recover from UFO Twitter Week, Love and Lighters. I was immersed in the love and light of UFO Twitter Week. I suffered through many spaces for my friends, supporting people in spaces I had no business being in. But yeah, I mean, it's always great, to hear what's going on in the community. Fantastic guests during UFO Twitter Week. There, I appreciate and love that we come together and support each other. But yeah, I'm back to the doom, Daz. I'm back to doing my thing. Happy to have Pastor Allen here. Pastor Allen, how are you today? Thank you so much again for joining us. I know I sound like a complete ridiculous fangirl when I say that I am so excited to have Pastor Allen and also Pastor Troy, and we had Derek and Tony Merkel last week. It was so good. I cannot stress enough how incredibly important these conversations are for specifically for the UFO community. And I wanted to mention to Pastor Allen, I was thinking about this last week. Where else can you preach to so many non-believers? It's a unique opportunity. It's so good, and I just love every minute that we have all spent together here on UFO Twitter. And it all started with the Fat Pastors meeting going viral, and all the terrible headlines, inaccurate headlines that came out of the pastors meeting. But look what it's turned into. This is so good. These conversations are so needed. Our community is desperate for these conversations and these
They're,
answers.
they're so important.
They
And I
are.
don't
And
I don't think it's just for the UFO community, because when we're doing these spaces, there's people from all across this app, right?
that's unique to you, Daz. I will say, Daz, as a host, does bring in people from across Twitter, not just the UFO community. Specifically, though, I have an entire list of questions. I really hope we can continue these spaces because I have a lot of questions. We have a lot, we need to present our counter arguments to a lot of these basic questions that come up specifically in the UFO community. A lot of these new age ideas, like you saw, Daz, during UFO Twitter Week, it's all about the love and light, and these entities are trying to ascend us to the 5D. That's all a bunch of nonsense. And I just think it's fantastic to have not just me as an experiencer, but an actual theologian in our community being willing to take these questions and being willing to give some counter arguments for these ideas. So I appreciate you being here, Pastor Allen.
Thank you so much, Fringe. And this has been a true joy for me too. For Daz to open up this door, I would have never have imagined a month ago that this would be my favorite place to do sessions like this. I've always been kind of a YouTube guy, but you're right. Everybody coming together from so many different backgrounds. And I got to tell you something. If you thought Tony Merkel was great, you guys are going to fall in love with Troy Brewer. This guy has more experience, more wisdom, more knowledge in this realm, and then you add that to the fact that he's on the ground all over the world rescuing kids. I think this is going to be an amazing space today. So thank you, Daz, to whom, Fringe. Thank you guys for making this possible.
You're welcome. We've got Pastor Troy on the stage, but I'm not seeing his mic. All right, so you're trying to speak. Say hi, Pastor Troy. Let's see if it comes through. Oh, no, I can't hear anything. Can you hear him, Fringe?
He is very, very, very low on his mic.
Okay, so what can I suggest to help him with the audio? Oh, it's coming through. Are you there, Pastor Troy?
He might be on a headset, Daz. He could be
Are
on a
you on a
headset or
Are
on a
you on a
computer.
headset? You might have to take the headset off. Don't worry, we have these technical things at the beginning when people are working out how to make it audible on here. But it's fine. To whom, Fringe? Look out when he requests again or when he comes back, send in requests. With my neurodivergent self, I have to set the scene and the intention with my little introduction that I have prepared. It's not as long as the last one. I hope that Pastor Troy would have been able to hear it, but we have to just keep keep it going, and hopefully he pops back in, right? So this is my third space with Pastor Alan DiDio. And for me, this is just the beginning. People can say I'm turning into a pastor all they want. I'm not preaching nothing. What I am doing is recognizing that the UFO topic, which was once fringe, is becoming very mainstream. And I'm seeing that from the Christian side of things, there are pastors who are having this conversation. It doesn't mean that I agree with everything that they're saying, but I respect what they are doing, because a conversation like this would have easily been shut down. The fact we have Pastor Alan DiDio and now Pastor 𝗓𝗏 is a true blessing, because they are very knowledgeable and both great speakers. Pastor Alan is becoming a veteran. You just heard him say he really enjoys the time he spends with us here on Spaces. And it's Pastor Troy's first time in Spaces, so we shall give him a warm welcome and show him the best of us. Any trolling, you will be dropped immediately. I also have a level of apprehension for this conversation because it includes human trafficking and the work that these pastors do to combat it, and the insidious connection with UFOs and NHI. I'm very aware of the Michael Herrera story when it comes to UFOs and trafficking. Last week, when I heard Tony Merkel mention it a number of times, I recognized this shiver come down my spine. And I felt like that was my guidance telling me this is something that we really do need to focus on, no matter how difficult it is to hear. The message that Fringe consistently shares is that these NHI are demonic and bad. I hope that there are some good ones, and I know To Whom does as well. And I, thank both of them for, being co-hosts with me as we continue this conversation with the pastors. But I can't escape the fact that thousands of children are going missing, being abducted, and being abused on so many different levels. So today, be prepared for a conversation that is set to open your eyes to many things that you may not have been aware of, and some things that you may not want to know. But what's more important in this reality than keeping the children safe? So please like and repost this space, and let's try and help Pastor Troy make sure that he's a bit more audible. Pastor Troy, can you try and speak?
Well, I can sure try. I hope that
Oh,
this thing
there
is
you
working.
are. He's
Okay.
there. It's
Oh my
working
gosh.
now. What I need to teach you now is just to mute, because we're not gonna keep your when other people are speaking, we're
Yes, of
gonna
course.
kindly ask for you to mute, because sometimes there's feedback and it starts echoing. So that's how we kind of take turns in spaces. So can you see the
I,
mute button?
I sure can, my friend.
Try it now. Yep, he's done it. All right, we're good to go. We're good to go. What a pleasure and an honor it is to have you here. Um, Pastor Alan DiDio. I listened to his first space. I feel like he just done this random space about, I don't know, 6 weeks or 2 months ago. And he had our friend Red Panda on there, and he was new to spaces, but I felt like he was just led there. And I was doing a space at the same time with my buddy Victor, and that space was on end times and UFOs or something like that. And then here was Pastor Alan. Like, I'm like, where's everyone gone? Where's they gone? They're all gone over to Pastor Alan's space because they found him. And I was like, well, so I couldn't be there because I was doing my space. So I made sure I listened to the replays. I don't always have time to listen to replays, but something told me listen to this man's replays, and the energy, the spirit, the heart I felt from Pastor Alan DiDio. I was like, okay, I'm gonna reach out to him and I'm gonna see if he would join me in a space. And he did. And since then, I think he's come 3 or 4 times. We've had Tony Merkel, and now we're having you. And you was one of the first ones that I remember him saying in the space, my good friend Pastor 𝗓𝗏. So thank you for being here. Fringe just gave a really great introduction, speaking about how important this topic is. I just want to check in with my buddy to whom, because we haven't spoken to him yet. And then we're going to give you and Pastor Alan the floor. And then when other people, want to join us, we're probably not going to try and have too much of a full stage because we really just want to have a conversation with the pastors. But when people come up and have questions, we'll bring them up and then probably rotate and stuff like that. Okay. But let me just say hi to Tahum, make sure that we can hear him because we haven't heard from him and he can say hi to the pastors. Tahum, you good, bro?
Hey, Darren, Fringe, Alan, can you hear me? Mic check.
Yeah, we can hear.
There must be a poly market bet somewhere on the interweb of an over-under on how many times I'm going to say I'm just grateful to be part of this journey, this experience. So the fix is in. Bet the over, because I'm going to keep saying it. Darren, I'm appreciative. Fringe, thank you guys for doing this. Today, I'm going to be more of a listener, even though this is a topic that our community talks about, saving the children in all parts of the world, especially in the United States. So it really does hit home. But I don't think, if not ever, have we talked about human trafficking regarding the topic, which is UFOs and aliens and all sorts of things that are happening underground. You often hear the terminology in our community, DUMBs, deep underground military bases. We talk about that quite often. Alan, I believe your buddy from last week, Tony Merkel, even mentioned it, or I'm sure he's down all sorts of rabbit holes. So this is going to be a heavy conversation. Who better than you, Darren, and Fringe, and the articulate Alan DiDio. Very appreciative again for you being part of this journey with us. Looking forward to your conversation. And Tony, I'm glad to be part of your first time on a space. We'll be very gentle. Everyone mind each other when we're speaking and be very cordial and
It's
respectful
Troy.
to
It's
all the
Troy.
speakers.
Don't do that. I was
What did I say,
calling Tony
Tony?
Troy. You said Tony. It's
Oh
Troy.
my goodness. You know, I'm Italian. I call everybody Tony, so it's a compliment. But Troy, nonetheless, welcome, brother. Let's get the party started, Darren.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Okay. So here we are. My first really question to you, Pastor Troy, is can you give the community space, whatever you want to call it, just insight into what led you into the path of the saving the children? Like I've been listening to a number of your YouTubes before this, and I heard one story, and it's like it really kind of floored me. Are you able to give them a bit of insight into that side of your work, please?
Yes, of course. Thanks, Daz, and thank you guys so much for the warm greeting. I hope that y'all can hear me well. And I'm actually driving down the highway. I'm doing 82 miles an hour right this second, which is legal here in Texas. And but with all that said, yes, yeah, I rescue kids. I've been doing that for 30 years now, and it started 30 years ago. I was actually building a food bank near a trash dump in Costa Rica, Central America. And while I was there, to make a long story short, we were gathering people together saying, hey, we're establishing a food bank here. You no longer have to look for food, it's always going to be here. And in the process of that, I came across a woman that had two little 9-year-old Nicaraguan refugee children, two beautiful little girls who were very sickly. And she point blank asked me if I wanted to buy them. And I asked her, why would I want to buy two little girls? And she said, because you can make a movie. And that was the first time that I'd ever come across anything like that. And I was like, my goodness. And I was only at that time, I was 29 years old. I'm 59 now. And I was like, yeah, I'll buy them. How much? And she said $120. I had exactly $120 in my back pocket and to the actual dollar bill. And I paid for those two little girls. I took them by the hand. They thought that I was taking them somewhere to abuse them. And I walked them across the trash dump, took them to my wife and said, look at what I just bought. And that was the first two little girls. And my wife and I took good care of those kids. We ended up getting them into a home. And yeah, they're like close to 40 years old now. So We saw them grow up. We helped them get married when they were in their 20s. We sent them to college, all the things. And now, they have children of their own. And those were the first two. Those were the first two. And then after that, I was building another one as well in Matamoros, Mexico. We were planning food banks all over the world. And I just found out very quickly that I fit the profile of a sexual tourist. I was a middle-aged white guy from America stomping around in really, really bad places. And I just started looking for kids and I started finding them everywhere. And since that time, we have rescued more than 12,700 kids. And we have over 6,500 children under our care right now. We've raised the majority of those almost 13,000 kids. We have homes all over the world. And that's kind of the short version of it.
Wow. Just hearing it from you, it was even more impactful. I just want to say hi to Red Panda and Carmen and Daryl. You know, I don't even know where this is going to go. Like, understand that I'm someone who has got child abuse in my story. I've connected to a lot of the people on this app, like Carmen and Brandy and Jeremiah. There's a lot of people within like the tracker community that are my friends, and it's through that side of things, so they're very important to me. I have so much respect for them because they don't just talk about it on spaces. They're doing like what you're doing, and they're actually saving the children. And I'm very aware like how much this darkness is in our society. And when we're talking about things that are demonic, that is something for me that is very demonic, because it's literally like you're purposely trying to take the innocence from children, and you kind of know what you're doing and it's feeding you. And it just, like I say, it gives chills down my spine. So I'm going to pass it to Fringe, because we also do want to hear that UFO connection as well. But you understand the work that he does. Such an honor to have you here. How many children, if that was like 30 years ago, how many children was it? And then I do want to hear from Pastor Allen, because I believe that he also does this type of work. So I want to hear from him, and then we're going to hear from the UFO perspective. But how many children would you say from these 30 years you've saved, Pastor Troy?
Yeah, no, we know exactly what that number is. And it's over 12,600 kids. We rescued 908 kids last year. We are rescuing about 1,000 kids a year now. And since the World Cup is here in the States, business is booming. We rescued 2 little girls and 1 little boy yesterday. We're in the process of rescuing a 12-year-old little girl in Houston, Texas today. We're actually, I expect any minute to get a text from them saying that it's happened. So yeah, we rescue about 1,000 kids a year, and we've rescued over 12,600.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you for all that you do. Can I just check in with Pastor Allen and just hear his story in terms of the work that his organization, it's not an organization, is it a church?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you do similar things when it comes to helping the children, Pastor Allen?
Well, now we're working almost exclusively with Pastor Troy and partnering with him in any way we can. 20 years ago, I was smuggling Bibles into Pakistan, and I ran across a family that was serving in a brick factory. They were working 12 hours a day, 6 days a week in 120-degree heat. And they told me the story of this precious girl that she would work there for the rest of her life, and her children, should she ever have any, would have to work there because of the debt that they accrued. They borrowed just a few dollars to help her father, who was sick, and they borrowed it from this brick factory owner, and it turned into indentured servitude, a form of slavery, and with the interest rates that they would never be able to pay off for the rest of her life. And I asked them, how much does she owe? That's so much she'll never be able to pay it off. They said $300. And I said, well, not on our watch. And so we immediately set her free, and then her family, and then begin to train them and teach them an occupation, and so that they would never have to be in that situation again. So we've done that work in Pakistan for a few years, but never have I seen the work that's being done like it's done by Troy Brewer. I went with him to Mexico to one of his homes to see exactly what was going on and the condition that these children were coming out of, and the quality of care that he was providing was unlike anything I've ever seen. And so when it comes to this area, rescuing kids out of human trafficking, I wouldn't trust anybody or any ministry more than Troy Brewer and Open Door Redemption Ranch with the work that they're doing. So we're so excited just to partner with him and to help him do the work that he's doing.
Yeah, it's amazing. Really touches my heart. Thank you for all that you're doing. Fringe, to whom? Any questions?
Oh, Daz, thanks. I just want to say what an incredible story. I think this is something the entire community can get behind. There's a lot of infighting in the UFO Twitter community, and then probably in the other communities as well, Daz, maybe not as much as UFOs, but this is something we can all get behind. I do want to point out that there is, let's be frank, the church in general, as just in general statement, hasn't been involved at times in controversy and some things that were very distasteful. And I think it's really easy to focus on those things. But here, we never hear these stories that Pastor Allen, Pastor Troy, they're not just preaching on Sundays, they're not just preaching on their YouTube channels, they're doing the work. They are putting themselves on the line and they're actually doing the work of the Lord. So I just want to point that out for the community. These are people, they're not just up here preaching, they're actually doing a lot behind the scenes that people don't focus on and don't hear about. So thank you both so much.
Thank you, Fringe. Red Panda, you was the person who really supported Pastor Allen. So the human trafficking, yeah, it's a part of this conversation 100%, and we're gonna go and flow with it. But we've also got these pastors that really speak on the UFO topic and the disclosure, and we want to keep that conversation going as well. So having Red on the stage, it's the first time he's come since Pastor Allen's been there. I just want to give him the opportunity to speak with either of the pastors about their thinking around aliens and stuff like that, because Red is so knowledgeable when it comes to that. When I listened to that replay, he enhanced Pastor Allen's space so much, and I know that Pastor Allen likes coming here because he's able to learn as well from us, from the UFO community. So it's going to be a back and forth from the UFO side of things and also the work that these great men do when it comes to the trafficking. So Red, any questions
First of all,
or
I didn't know that about who is that? Was that Troy? That's amazing, dude.
yeah, Pastor Troy, yeah.
That's really the Lord's work. And Alan, I didn't know that about you either. And it goes to show, because I already thought it was suspicious, the kind of immune system response from like the disclosure. I call it the disclosure industrial complex around UFO disclosure that these pastors got when they kind of went public with their personal experiences of being in that meeting or whatever. Right? There was like visceral reactions from people, even as high as 𝗬𝗲, who might become the 𝗜𝘁𝗶𝘁𝗃. But now even knowing that they're involved in human trafficking stuff, that just makes those visceral reactions even like uglier, in my opinion. And then, yeah, just thinking out loud, I mean, like, it's not even a question anymore, the overlap between human trafficking and UFO disclosure, when you have people who are like quote unquote whistleblowers, like Jake Barber, who allegedly David Grush endorses, who says that like basically kids get trafficked from third world countries to psionically control UFOs. Now, maybe that's a psyop, maybe that's not. But those are like narratives that are being told and listened to seriously in the halls of Congress. So I don't know. I'm just curious, maybe if Alan or Troy have heard of those, or Fringe. I'd love to get you to maybe add some on top of that before we throw it to them about this overlap we're seeing with these two things: the human trafficking and the UFO stuff.
Yeah, Red. And I think that's a great time to go to that part of the conversation, which is the entire point of this conversation. When I first came to this community and I tried to tell people that UFOs and occult rituals and human trafficking and all that stuff was interrelated. And by the way, my own family has been engaging in human trafficking for over 100 years. It was the family business. Also, having been in law enforcement, I got to see this stuff firsthand. I was told I was a conspiracy theorist, and get this, Red, I was told I was dangerous for disclosure. The disclosure people, the upper echelon of ufology and the people at the top of this disclosure movement, they do not want these so-called conspiracies coming together. They don't want people to put this big picture together. And I think that's going to be a very important part of our conversation today.
Well, now it is put together, right? Like you have Jake Barber and Herrera. I mean, part of the legacy program is allegedly kidnapping kids, filling them up with drugs from third world countries, and having them do stuff. It's like really weird. It's talked about on News Nation, like it's a fact, you know?
Yeah, I mean, they were just
Very
admitting
crazy.
it, right? And then we had Jake Barber almost excusing it, right? No, they're actually getting paid and they're sending money home to their families and they want to volunteer for this. In the meanwhile, we have like American Alchemy just flat out saying these kids are used and thrown away, because the problem with these psionic assets, as we should all know by now, is contact with the phenomenon is not good for us. It literally cooks our brains. And so a psionic asset can only be used and abused for so long before that person is then thrown away and they have to be replaced. And you're so right, Red. This is now coming out. I mean, they're actually admitting this in public. It's absolutely insane.
Which
I'm
makes me
glad
think too,
glad
sorry, real
it's
quick.
here. Yeah.
What they say publicly is if they're willing to say that publicly, that we're kidnapping kids and filling them up with drugs, and I think he even said they're basically doing, and 𝗬𝗲 did a great thing where he basically broke down they're doing like satanic ritual abuse on these kids, like stress inoculation. They have all these fancy words for it that they're saying on like Jesse Michaels' show, like stress inoculating kids, and sometimes if that's what they're willing to say publicly. Think about what they're not willing to say publicly. That like this is them getting ahead of a narrative, you know. So you got to kind of always factor that in whenever people tell
And
you
while
bad
they're
No,
things about
Red,
asking for
themselves.
amnesty too, notice that the
right.
big push right now is for amnesty, and that's because they're committing crimes against not only adults, but against children.
And I'm surprised to hear you lot say that this has actually been come out of the mouths of Jake Barber and Jesse Michaels. Really, they're saying that this is what's happening to the children. Wow, wow. Pastor Allen, do you have any kind of like thoughts, or can you share your thoughts on like what you're aware of with the UFO side of things and the human trafficking?
Absolutely. And I think Troy will have some really cool insights into this because I believe he was in DC when they first started having hearings about this. There was also meetings going on about human trafficking at the same time. So he'll be able to speak to that. I got to say, first of all, Red Panda was just, he threw me a life raft. I don't think I'd ever done a space before. Saw all the misinformation that was just swirling all of a sudden as if someone flipped a switch. And that's interesting, the disclosure industrial complex. But he came in and he saved me in my space, and I'm just so thankful to you, Red Panda, and for making these connections. It's really been a great blessing. But one of the things that I thought of as Fringe was talking was the movie Disclosure Day and how they pictured these abductions as blessings in disguise. And I thought that was interesting. That they pictured these things, that these children being abducted as actually they weren't being abused, they weren't being traumatized, they're actually being gifted. And so maybe this isn't something that we should resist. I thought that was interesting, but I think Troy will have a unique perspective on the connection between the human trafficking element and the UFO disclosure taking place now.
Okay, well, I guess I'll go ahead and speak into it then. Wow, by the way, again, this is my first space. And oh my gosh, man, I'm already hooked. Let's go. Okay, so my experience connected to the UFO on this is not, it's not the past 30 years. It's really a whole lot more recent. I didn't hear anything UFO wise until I would say probably 7 or 8 years ago. Now, what we had heard is we saw this incredible connection between a child that we rescued in Nepal would say the same thing as a child in Uganda, and they would say that they'd been through the same exact ritualistic abuse as children in Mexico or kids in the Amazon or even kids here in the United States. And I was like, there is no way that these guys are connected in any way, yet the rituals were the same and their experiences were the same. And then about 7 or 8 years ago, I was in Chiapas, Mexico, which is down on the Guatemala border, and we began rescuing kids down there, and that was a whole different animal. And not only, I mean, these guys had these wild supernatural stories of giants. They had wild supernatural stories of people changing into all kinds of demonic manifestations and crazy things. But they also had these UFO stories. And the when I first actually came across that, how I came across that was we had to do a diplomatic, um, we had to do this diplomatic outreach to the cartel down there. And there's different factions of the cartel that is there, and they control different parts of Chiapas. And so we brought a bunch of gifts and a bunch of things. We set up with the main cartel guys, and this main cartel guy has a pyramid on his property. Now, if you guys will do research on this, if you look up Chiapas, if you look up Chiapas, Mexico, the largest Mayan pyramid on the planet Earth is in Chiapas, Mexico, and it is the only one that is privately owned. And it's where this cartel base is. And it's literally our rescue center down there and our redemption ranch is literally in the shadow of this thing. And so I went to him to talk to him. I was like, you guys know that we're rescuing kids. You guys know that we're raising kids over here. What do I got to do to get along with you guys? How does this system work down here? And is there any way that you can help protect my ranch against the competing cartels? And they very much agreed. And they were decent people. And I had a very pleasant speak. And I was like, while I'm here, can I see the pyramid? And so he said, yes. So I told him, I said, you know, I have kids that tell stories about this pyramid that we have rescued. And he said, yes. And he asked me, he said, do they involve the star people? And I said, yes, they do. In this whole region, they involve quote unquote star people. And I asked him, I said, what do you have to do with this? And he said, well, I can tell you that through periodic times, and specifically on certain days of the year, these stars come down and they sit right on top of this pyramid. And we're not allowed to be up there. And he said, there's not much telling what would happen to us if we were there. But then they disperse and they go out and they actually meet with bad guys, which he called them, you would consider them bad guys, meaning traffickers of children and worse than that. And I was like, okay, well, and he asked me, well, what stories did you hear? And the stories that we actually heard from these kids that we have actually rescued is that they were taken to the star people and that they had known other children that had been taken to the star people. And some of them had disappeared. And some of them, when they came back, they were nonverbal. They were literally nonverbal. And some of the nonverbal kids that we take care of in Chiapas, Mexico, had some kind of experience with these monsters, whatever they may be. I have a good idea what they are, and me and Alan would classify them. We have a whole classification for that. We can actually discuss that if you want to. But with that said, they tend to have some kind of brain damage that is not just from the trauma. You see kids from trauma. I'm talking about advanced trauma, but these kids actually had to have some kind of, they seem to have some kind of physiological damage that is done to them. And it was the first time that I'd come across anything like that.
So, how old was these children that was telling you this story, Pastor Troy?
Guys, I think the question you asked is how old were they? Is that what you asked?
Yeah, correct. How old was these children that was telling you this story?
Well, they're all various ages, but they're littles. We're talking about 7 and 8 year olds, 9 and 10 year olds. I think the oldest one that I can think of down there that we've rescued that saw the star people, she's probably 16 or 17 now, but her encounters were when she was 12 and 13 and 14. I think that we rescued her when she was 14.
So you're saying that the whole star people element, it wasn't from the beginning of your journey with trafficking, it was probably like the last 10 years, is that correct?
That is correct. And it was for me, it was a very specific regional location, which is Chiapas, Mexico, near the Guatemala border.
I'm curious too. I feel like a lot of it deals with like occult ritual stuff too. Do you come across that kind of thing? And that kind of, even what you just kind of talked about, is kind of along the same vein. I feel like a lot of these kids getting trafficked end up, unfortunately, in like weird occult ritual type situations. Like you said, actually, you did say in your thing too.
Yeah, no, that is 100%. And again, the occultic ritualistic abuse that they go through in Nepal, though they have a different name for it, and though they have a different name for the gods, that these children are literally chained to idols. And that is in Mexico. That is the cartel, and I think that Pastor Allen and I would both argue whether we all as a community believe that this is demonic or not, the cartels believe that it is demonic. They believe that. And they actually, all over Mexico, we provide the intel for the Mexican government, and we actually show them these kids are actually chained to certain kinds of idols and certain kinds of spiritual, demonic, I don't know, just artifacts and things like that, while they are actually being abused.
That's crazy. Oh, wow. Daz, can I play 2 clips real quick that I think kind of go on this beat of
Yeah,
what we're talking
no,
about?
your input always will enhance this kind of space because you've got so much knowledge. So please go ahead. While you're have you got it loaded up already, Red?
Got it queued, but go say what you're thinking, then I'll play it.
No, it's fine. Play the clip, and then we'll keep it moving. I've just got a few
These
requests.
are just 2 clips that I think kind of help set the tone of the overlap we're seeing lately in human trafficking and UFO disclosure. And this first one's from Matt Gaetz, former congressman, talking about a briefing he got. Now, this one was just, I think, a constituent who came in, but we've heard similar briefings like this be discussed at the congressional level. I'll just play this, and he talks about and it's kind of an overview of what I was saying earlier. This is from the Make Aliens Great Again space that happened 2 months ago.
The briefing I got made these same allegations about how the humans for this program were harvested. Because I asked that. I was like, wait a second. I get how you get the aliens. They under this theory of the case, they land here in some sort of you got to do something with them. So you go and incarcerate them in some way. But
teach them how to play basketball.
Yeah, how in the hell do you get like the humans? And they say, oh no, it is natural disasters. They said actually, sadly, the unaccompanied minor crisis and the caravans that just had like kind of unaccountable swaths of humans in Central America running up through the Darien Gap and across the U.S.-Mexico border. And then they said the Ukraine war. The person said, like, where you have all these like kind of dead adults and you got all these kids running around. And,
chaos, no accountability. Yeah, pretty easy.
Again, I will stress again that my general counsel believed this to be a counterintelligence operation, but the allegation was the same, that in places of great human peril, chaos, uncertainty, and no accountability, that is where the humans were harvested for that project.
Okay, now next clip this is Jake Barber, a quote-unquote UFO whistleblower, who's connected to some like kind of shoddy Epstein-esque funded. Basically, he came out with a company, and the founder of his company was in the Epstein files like a lot. And here he is. So another UFO whistleblower came out and said that he witnessed human trafficking on the Sean Ryan show. And then Jake Barber kind of came out and retconned this previous UFO whistleblower in a way that I had never really seen done in like the disclosure movement, which is kind of crazy on its face, especially when you consider it's the human trafficking stuff. But here's him talking about how it's what Fringe said earlier. It's not human trafficking, bro. Like, they love it, but I don't know.
Sean Ryan was there at the time with us in DC when this happened, and we talked about this. Shortly after that is when Herrera went on his show, and the thing took a kind of a dark turn because the term human trafficking was slapped on this thing, and when you hear that, you think of slavery and sex trafficking and all these things. And it's my understanding that's not at all what goes on in these operations. It's no different than someone setting up any other type of business, and the people come willingly. The people that work in these programs, it's a great job. It's fun. Some of them have known their whole life that they have this intuition or this special talent, and they're socially awkward or have other pathologies, social pathologies that they're dealing with too, that somehow seems like it plays into this. So it's like, not all the people that are talented in this way are normal in every other way. It's like God created some balance. So when they can come and get involved in this program and have food and shelter and be treated with respect and make money, like if you went down there on your high horse representing the United States and morality and went in and tried to liberate these people, they'd be like, get out of here. We don't want to be liberated. This is our job.
Can I play devil's advocate for 1 second? I think in the Michael Herrera testimony, he thought that whatever organization this paramilitary group was from was taking advantage of the fact that Indonesia was this disaster zone.
Right.
And some of these people could go missing easily.
Yes.
And so that, to me, sounds
That's
a little
one
more...
theory. Or the hurricane, the natural disaster was actually threatening a workspace for this operation, and they needed to get the hell out of Dodge.
Got it.
I have no firsthand experience with that operation, nor direct contact with anyone involved with it.
Why do you sound sketchy there, and why is he talking about something if he doesn't have experience?
I know of that type of operation. I know of that craft. I know of those containers.
But yeah, those are just kind of two examples of how like these conversations are happening kind of at high levels within this movement and stuff. So I just kind of find it obviously sad, but also very interesting that it's like not like how Fringe said, yeah, like 2023, you tried to talk about the overlap of these two things. It was kind of hush hush, but now it's happening on Jesse Michaels and Congress and stuff like that.
Just before we go to the hands, let's see, with the pastors hearing that, Pastor Alan, what are your thoughts hearing those two clips?
Yeah, even Stephen Greer has spoken to the human trafficking side of this, but he says that he believes it's our intelligence agencies, humans who are trafficking these people. Pastor Troy's probably ministered to people on these lines. I know I have, who have been abducted, and it wasn't humans. It was not humans that abducted them. So what's the answer? I think both are happening. The motives behind it, one of the reasons why the identities of the two gentlemen who put on the meeting that I was a part of, the pastor's briefing that I was a part of, that their identities are to remain anonymous for now, is because part of their investigation is into human trafficking and into the United States government's potential crimes in the process of attempting to reverse engineer or obtain non-human intelligence or partnerships with non-human intelligence. Are there agencies partnering with these entities for whatever reason? And I think the answer to that question is yes. Why? I think the motives are different depending on which agency, which group of people you're talking about. We've even heard people report on different types of entities. Are different types communicating with different parts of the United States government for different purposes? And are those parts of the government operating in silos where the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing? So I think it's a place for all of these things to be true.
Thank you. Pastor Troy, your thoughts after hearing that clip, and then we're going to get to the hands. Thank you for your patience, guys.
Yeah, I'm always suspicious of anybody who says, yeah, the trafficking thing is not real in any category whatsoever. I've not come across anything that trafficking is not involved in. And if there is a partnership between human beings and these entities, and if these entities are real, and certainly there are untold numbers of people who have had encounters with these things all over the world, then why would it be a stretch to say that, you know, there is something nefarious that's going on with children when in fact there are that are reporting this? And again, I personally speak to them, and I'm just kind of, I'm bewildered at that. I mean, to me, it's obvious that there's a red herring.
100%. And it definitely feels like this is a time where so much more is coming
And
out,
Daz,
doesn't
this
it?
is while Jake Barber is petitioning Congress for amnesty, by the way. Let's not forget that these people, the Disclosure Industrial Complex, as Red put it, they're asking for amnesty, not just to be relieved of their NDAs, but they're asking for amnesty for crimes that have been committed against United States citizens as well as human beings across the world.
Which on its face is another crazy thing, right? Like even in World War II, we kind of knew what amnesty has been given for. They're asking for blank checks, and they're not telling us what they want. They want it first, and then they're like, okay, it's crazy. Totally normal.
Something sly is definitely happening. It's obvious. Let's hear from Andra. Go ahead, Andra.
Thank you so much, Daz. Wow, I feel like this space is the space we have been waiting to have for so long, and I'm so glad you're having it because many of us have been wondering how these pieces fit together, and I'm truly so glad. I as we put these pieces together, I mean, I think we are all coming to the understanding that there's obviously a connection between human trafficking and NHI UAP. We just don't exactly know what it is. Listening to that about the star people, that was quite revelatory. I think, maybe as we move forward as a community, we can maybe try to overlay some of these other pieces that have been kind of strewn about and we don't know what to do with yet. For instance, why in the middle of this UAP UFO conversation between Sean Weaver and Jake Barber, why is there a reference to the Gilgo Beach murders that just seems randomly plopped in there? And even, another overlay might be as crazy as it sounds, as woo as it sounds, regardless of whether or not you believe it. Some of these treaties that Laura Eisenhower has been talking about that have been made between NHI and our government. Because yes, what Alan just said is so accurate. There is a network structure here of industrial scale. We just don't exactly know what the currency is. We talk about this thing about, loosh, but we don't like concretely, we don't know what what the currency is. But I think I personally have long believed that there is an exchange happening here at scale above the elites, above, the satanic ritual abuse, above that supports all this at a very commercialized scale. And, what that looks like, I don't know, but it's obviously happening. I think I had something more to say about, the actual commodification of whatever the hell is happening here. But yeah, I think I just wanted to throw that on the table. Thank you so much, Daz, Fringe, everybody. I'm just gonna be quiet now.
Thank you, Andrea. No, we appreciate that. I've just got a few requests, so I'm going to rotate you. But if your thoughts come back, please let me know, and we'll bring you back up. Okay. Who was next? I think Mav. Mav, go ahead, Mav. Good to see you. Oh no, Turtle's waving. Turtle, are you struck for time? Are you next, Turtle?
No, I just already forgot half the stuff, but
All right, I'm going
either
to
way,
let you go, Turtle. Go on, 'cause I don't always have Turtle on the stage. My apologies.
I
Go ahead, Turtle.
appreciate
Then
it.
we go to Mav.
Appreciate it, man. God bless these two pastors, man. That's the numbers and the thing. It's just unbelievable. I had chills and tears at the same time, and that's a rarity. But the bottom line is the first phone number that we call. That was always the problem. So, like in my town, if you saw something happening and you called the cops, you don't know if they're going to give it to the underbelly that they have connections with, or worse, maybe giving them to CPS for the Child Protective Agency. So it's a catch 22. So in the mid 70s, late 70s, everything was different. The people that trafficked children were given long walks on short piers. The cops and the mobs high-fived each other, and it was all said and done. And then in the early 80s, as far as what my recollection is, allegedly, is when things changed, and the officials, where you were supposed to turn them into, was the big question mark. The milk cartons, that's a horrifying story of the, you think you're saving somebody, you call this phone number, and you immediately turn them into somebody that's going to re-traffic them, or the movie An Open Secret. Look who made that movie and what he did before. And then if at the end of the movie they give you a phone number, and anybody that called that phone number and said, "Hey, I was trafficked and I escaped," well, now you're getting a cease and desist order. And if at all possible, if somebody felt they had ownership over you, then they would send the goons and come, and now you're put back into the system again that you escaped from. So that's been the most terrifying part for me, is not knowing who to turn anybody into for that's safe. So y'all too, with your organizations, I think everybody in here needs to jot down the number. Daz, maybe you can share the number so we have something. We have a phone number that we can trust, because I know who I can't trust around here, and it's all the authorities. And it's always just been this way in my town. Um, but the one thing that said fascinated me was that how I've heard the same stories about star people, but they come down and they have a chat with the criminal, with the cartels there, where in America they're going to come down and talk to the politicians probably, because like she was saying right before I came up here, that's what I came up to say was, we have contracts since Eisenhower or even before, where they're allowed to take a certain amount. I'm pretty sure, allegedly, or that our military delivers them. So it all depends. When you turn somebody in, you don't know. They could be bringing them to aliens, well, for lack of a better term. And then I did hear of a big thing where the intelligence agencies were grabbing people and drugging them and then putting on alien suits and doing all sorts of experiments with them. So then that was the story they would tell. Um, I believe we're in a closed system. I believe the UFOs that we discussed are either coming from underwater or from underground. Um, and I'm guessing whoever we made that agreement with has always taken more than the agreement, and they can get them through. From what I always heard, with national parks, places that we can't go. There's, but the underbelly is the worst part, and until we get that figured out, as far as who we turn these children into, I don't. I'm just terrified to even be involved with it. That would terrorize my conscience if I turned somebody into something and then I found out they were re-trafficked or worse. So I didn't know if I just rambled or if there was a question in there. But I appreciate everybody. Appreciate you bringing me up, Taz, Ted, Fringe. Great conversation.
No worries. To whom? You got anything to share back to Turtle?
Thanks for sharing, Turtle. Like I mentioned in the very beginning of this space, Turtle, myself, MV, Patriot, a lot of us have these very difficult conversations where people come up. And shout out to, the vulnerable sharing their stories. And again, hearing Troy share everything he did in the beginning of the space, you're a real life superhero, man. So I co-sign what Turtle's saying. It is a big fear of who and where. We've gotten to that inflection point filled with misinformation, disinformation, information, and people don't know where to turn to or whom to trust. So I agree. If that's something that Troy and Alan agree with, sharing that information. I'm sure it's already public, but making it more accessible in the space and moving forward. You have Carmen. How did I skip Carmen here? Carmen holds spaces steady on this conversation specifically. My apologies, Carmen. I didn't see you there. And she's somebody that would, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, Carmen, but heavily push these two gentlemen. The last story that I really gravitated towards before hearing yours right now was, I believe it's Sam Childs, right? Ex-biker, possibly Hell's Angel, who went to Africa to start saving children. Kind of a vigilante man. That story really moved me, and it still does. And hearing your story, Troy, and it's incredible. So yeah, put you in touch with Carmen, and thank you for what you're doing. Yeah, that's what I have to say. I'm not sure how we're doing for time with Alan and Troy, but keep it ebb and flowing. I know you got a ton of hands, dude. I'm letting you control the pace of the
Let's
request.
talk about time. Yeah, it's only been an hour, so we're not going to rush them. I feel like they're enjoying the space. You guys are enjoying the space, aren't you, Pastor Troy? We've only had two speakers speak to them, so yeah, we've got time. We've got time. I'm sure they're going to be with us for a little bit. But when they're getting tired, when time's run out, they're going to let me know, right? Carmen. Do you want to say hi? Because I remember last time Carmen didn't put her hand up, but she's here. So we're going to throw the mic to Carmen and say hi. I literally went into her space yesterday to make sure she knows. So I want Carmen to say hi, and then we're going to hear from Daryl, right? But yeah, please do like and repost the space and give Pastor Alan Didio and Pastor Troy Brewer a follow. And you can find them on YouTube. They're huge on YouTube, and their ministries are really important for this time. And this is coming from someone who's not even a Christian, but I listen to how grounded and how well versed they are, and I feel blessed that I actually found them. So, Red, if that makes me turning into a pastor, then I will take it, because these guys are amazing. Carmen, you want to say hi to these guys, the pastors?
Yes, thank you, Jazz, Fringe, and to whom. Hello, Troy and Alan. I'm here, I'm listening, I take it in. I'm very humbled to be here, very humbled to be around, so much talent and expertise in this situation, especially when it comes to children. This is all about the children and protecting our children from many different things, especially the child trafficking and so forth. So I'm just here to listen, and I've got a couple questions, but I'm kind of like building them, Daz. So give me maybe a little bit, and I'll ask the questions. Thank you.
Amazing, amazing. Go ahead, Pastor Troy.
Hey, thanks so much. Well, guys, thanks for the kind words. I appreciate you, Daz, so much, brother, and I appreciate you being so welcoming. I got a couple of things to say about turning these kids over to government agencies, and if it's okay that I speak into that, is that okay, Daz?
Yeah, 100%. You're the guest. Go ahead.
Okay, buddy. All right, so yeah, no, I agree 10,000%, and I'm going to talk to you about specifically here the CPS system. But we actually raise all of our kids. So we raise our kids all over the world. We have our own homes. They go into a real family structure. And because I will not turn them over to any government anywhere in the world, because I've never had a good experience with that. And it doesn't matter what nation it is. All over the world, and I could go into what all we do and how we do it. But I do that everywhere except for here within the United States. And I want to tell you why, because it is illegal, is why. In fact, it is so much easier to rescue children and raise children in a banana republic or in a Central American nation or in the Caribbean or even in Mexico than it is in the United States. And the hostility that good people face when they decide that they want to take on hell with a water pistol and start raising these kids and seeing about their aftercare and their well-being I know from personal experience. So I'd like to share a little bit about that. So in 2016, from 2016 to 2020, I had phone numbers to three three-letter agencies, and I had a lot of cooperation internationally, because as we were busting traffickers throughout the world, we were working with the American government to actually extradite them and get them prosecuted here within the United States. And all of that ceased on January the 20th of 2020. Every single one of those numbers went gank, 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 gank on January the 20th of 2020. The borders were open, and then a hostility came against us that I'd never experienced before. The FBI came to my house. The FBI came to my church. I was under a 4-year investigation by the Department of Justice. The Internal Revenue Service audited us over and over and over again, threatened to put chains on the doors of our church. And all we had to do to get any of it to stop was to stop trying to rescue kids. That was it. And we went through this hell. We got through it. I've actually got friends now in the Department of Justice, and they've shown me the file that was investigated on us. And so I work with them now, and things are well again, and it's pretty cool. But with that said, the CPS, there's one system that you can put a kid in the United States, and specifically if they have the term trafficking attached to them, it is impossible for anybody other than the CPS system to actually raise them, because of the laws and because of the statutes that have been passed. And if they have the term trafficking, and if they are a minor, the American compliance to get the license, which is impossible to get, but let's just say you do get it, it's upwards to $100,000 per year per child to actually have the privilege of being able to feed and take care of that child. On the other hand, you need to understand that is why there are less than 700 beds for trafficked children in the entirety of the United States, in all 50 states. Here in Texas, there's less than 70. Okay, so whenever you hear, hey, there was a bus and there's 120 kids that were rescued, they're not going to go into a home because there's not a single bed in the nation. There's only one boys' home for trafficked kids, and it has 17 beds. And that's in all 50 states of the United States of America. And the reason that is because the government has made it impossible to get licensing. They go into a system that is not even federally regulated. The CPS system is regulated from state to state, and it's all state. All of it is. And so that means that there's zero accountability. Zero accountability. That's the way that they've wanted it, and that's the way that they keep it. I have the privilege of going to DC a lot. I will be in Washington, DC tomorrow. I'm literally addressing this same topic tomorrow, that there has to be licensing agreements for people other than CPS to actually raise these kids, because when they go in the CPS system, they are sent from home to home to home that is not licensed, which means they can only stay for 30 days. And the reason it's not licensed is because you can't get a license. Okay, after the 30 days, they're passed to another house, and they continue to stay in those systems until they get in front of a liberal judge who will turn them over to their custodial parents. And those, indeed, my friends, are the traffickers. And I'll stop.
Wow. Sounds like you've had to have many battles when it comes to this, and thank you for staying on the course and not letting these demonic forces sway you and put you off, because I think that's what it comes down to, doesn't it? And yeah, you're a testament of like grit. And like someone said, you're a hero. Then definitely needs to be more people like you. So yeah, it's amazing having you here. I want to introduce you guys to my buddy Daryl. He's also was a pastor in a past life, so he's going to have some interesting things to say, because he's a part of the UFO community, the truth seeker community, racial equity, everything Daryl is, And like I said, he was also a pastor, so you're going to love this man. Daryl, good to see you. Say hi to the guys.
Oh, thank you, Darren, and everybody else up on the stage. To whom, Fringe, Red Panda, all the familiar faces. And I also want to say thank you for putting this together. I'm sorry that I missed the previous rooms that you had on this topic with Pastor Allen, and it's glad to be in here with Pastor Troy. I took some time yesterday to go back and look over some of their videos and some of the information you've been putting out, and I applaud your diligence, particularly coming from a ministerial background. And for Pastor Troy, particularly, I listened to one where you talked about how you're deep into your second generation of people you've rescued, and the accomplishments of some of those people and some of the women you mentioned that have PhD degrees, heading up large corporations. So, man, just major kudos to what you've done and what you're doing. And my prayers with you to continue to do. My question, however, though, it kind of goes back to, in ministry. I was a jurisdictional bishop at one point, and I had 11 churches. And at one point, I had a Bible study, and it was after I had just come back from Los Angeles, and I had just had a long conversation, several conversations with Giorgio Saluskas, and this was the second season of his Ancient Aliens program. So, of course, people asked me what I was, how the trip going things. And so quickly, I had to throw out my Bible study because people, I found out then families at home watched the same stuff I did, and they wanted to know, well, what did Giorgio say about ancient aliens? What did he say about the Nephilim? What did he? And so I quickly scrapped my study I prepared. And so we started having those serious conversations. And I had been dabbling into that world for a while, looking at reconciling the scriptures with things that, as and I've heard you both talk about it, there are scriptures that are said in the Bible that you can't find in the Bible. So I started searching those other references, and I said, I want to read what Jesus was reading. And they're not all in the Bible. So I'm looking at some of the other Gnostic texts. It got me into some trouble. In corporate religion, if you don't follow their doctrine, you have problems. I had problems, but I did have a room back with Daz back in Clubhouse days, and I had an interview with Billy Carson, and I had so many pastors and spiritual religious people call me to do interview after interview. And so I'm glad to see we're having, it's a bit more liberal to have that conversation now, but I still would like to know from where you're seeing, particularly it's interesting that you've had a pyramid that's owned by a person and these entities. I'm curious, did any of these children actually give you a physical description of what these beings or entities were or where they came from. Because if it's a pyramid, it kind of points back toward more ancient technologies, I think, of all the other pyramids, to include pyramids in Egypt. And if that were the case, then are we dealing with, whether it's devils, demons, interdimensional beings, extra dimensional beings? But it seems like it would be an ancient technology if it's coming through associated with pyramids. Takes us back another 5 to 10,000 years. And if so, are these the Nephilim? Are these the Anunnaki? Where do they fit in scripture or some of the other biblical texts? Thank you.
My goodness, I'll tell you what. I certainly want to answer that, but I want to give Bishop Allen a chance. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, this is something that's been one of the most fascinating studies in Scripture, and Troy was really one of the first people to put me on the track of this because he began doing a series called The Seed War. I'm sure you remember this, Pastor Troy. This was years ago, and we started discussing this, so I started digging into it myself. Of course, for the book I was writing, Summoning the Demon, it was something I needed to look into. And one of the biggest mistakes the Western church has done is attempted to separate spiritual things from natural things. And as we've spoken about in other spaces, and Fringe has so eloquently spoken about this as well, it is not one or the other. All natural things come from spiritual things. And when we're dealing with these entities, we know that there are angels. We know that there are fallen angels. We know that there are demons. We know that there are Nephilim, which is a hybrid between angels and humans. We know that there are cursed human beings who are on this planet, like Nebuchadnezzar. When he was cursed, he literally turned into a beast. So there's all kinds of supernatural entities that are natural. And the church has done a terrible job. This is one thing I've discovered over the last 6 months. It's been just horribly misrepresented what the Bible teaches on these issues. And I'm concerned, as one of our friends, Darren Stott, says, we've allowed the church to become too secular for the world, where even the world recognizes that this is real, there is evil, there are evil entities, and they turn to the church and all they get is some sort of materialistic, naturalistic response. And I think we should do better. I think we can do better. And Pastor Troy's one of those leading voices who's inspired me to dig into this too, with this series on the Seed War. So if anybody gets a chance, by the way, you just go to his YouTube channel and search like Seed War, and it's pretty amazing stuff. But Troy, what do you think?
Well, okay, so right on. Number one, I want to say a great big thank you to that pastor that was just on there. And I'm sorry, sir, that I didn't catch your name. I've been driving down the
That was
road, and I apologize.
Daryl. That was Daryl. Yeah, I don't
Okay.
think he's a pastor now, but he was in the past.
Okay. Right on. Well, thank you, Daryl. I'm so grateful for you, sir. Okay. Yeah. So biblically, how I would answer this is, if you're asking, is it ancient technology? Is it this? Yes, it's all the above. So what I agree with him wholeheartedly that while there is a separation in species of all these different entities that will manifest in different realms and also to manifest in different ways with different abilities, I would say that is the first problem that most Christians have. They just put everything in an angel and demon category, which we all imagine, which Alan and I do as well, except for we recognize that there's tons and tons of different species within the midst of all this that can show up in lots of different ways. And some of them show up in the technology realm, and some of them show up with the technology. They actually introduced technology, as the book of Enoch says, that they brought all this technology and showed them how to make weapons and showed them how to do this and how to do that. So just biblically, among the holy and the fallen within the angels and the demonic realm, as we in the Western world would call it, which is a construct. It's not biblical, but it's how we've categorized everything. I mean, just biblically, you have all these different categories. So you have, of course, archangels, which has to do with the monarchy of how they work, it has to do with the systematic structure. You have messengers, you have warring. You also have this mysterious group that is found in the book of Daniel. One group is called Watchers, which of course the book of Enoch also references to, but specifically the one that is in the book of Enoch, he specifically says, "I saw a holy watcher." And I think that by the time that Daniel was written, everybody was so familiar with Enoch that they didn't think that there were any that were not fallen. And he said, "Oh, I saw one that wasn't fallen," and he come down. There's another one in the book of Daniel that's called 𝗬𝗲, 𝗬𝗲. And if everybody in the space would just do a Google search on 𝗬𝗲, the reference and the verse will come up. But the King James boys, they just call it the one. The one said to another, but they don't actually give the name, and they don't reference it because they didn't like that. There's others. There's the seven spirits before God. There are actually elementals all the way through the Bible. There is, the demon that Jesus himself spoke to and said, "Peace be still," in the midst of the storm. There's one angel that stands upon the land and the sea. There's a way the spirit moves in the wind and the sound of rushing wind. Sometimes it's the sound of waters. So we could go on and on. My point is that there's somewhere between 15 and 50 million species on the planet Earth of kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and then finally species. Okay? Imagine in the celestial realm how unlimited that is. And so, and some of these angels require quote unquote chariots. Okay, why would an angel need any form of technology whatsoever unless they have true physicality? And so that is another realm that is also very distinguishing. There are some spirits that we would call spirits or poofs. I like to call them poofs. And then there are others that have such physicality, like the sons of God category, you find in Genesis 6, that they can actually procreate with human beings, meaning their DNA is so similar to ours. Unlike a dog and a cat, we can actually reproduce. There are also star class angels in the Bible. Where were you when the stars rejoiced and sang with me at the beginning of creation, O Job? So within all of these realms are both holy and fallen. And when they are fallen, then you have a whole nother subspecies because they tend to corrupt the seeds of everything. And then those beings manifest in different ways as well. And I'll stop.
I want to thank you for that. It's probably the most thorough biblical explanation I've ever heard from
He's
anybody in
amazing, isn't he,
ministry.
Daryl?
It is. And again, yeah, from an independent church background, you can do and say those things. You also, but you in a corporate church, you can't, because if it's not in your Bible, that's why I was raised, then you can't say it. Don't teach it. So, and that's where I've been for the last 15 years. But I now, so this raises another question, because now we're talking about aliens and UAPs and things like that. I often wonder if we are being visited by extraterrestrial visitors from another planet, then why haven't one of our satellites knocked one out of space yet? And I'm inclined to believe that maybe these are interdimensional extraterrestrial, or the biblical scripture that says we battle not against the flesh, but powers, principalities, and spiritual wickedness in high places. And that these, what we're experiencing, are just some aspects of what that is attempting to describe. So, I wonder, from an alien standpoint, do you think that we actually could be visited by extraterrestrial time travelers, or both? Maybe we're experiencing other things that are happening in this physical dimension, which is only 3% of the universe that we can see, but maybe there's another 97% that these things are manifesting in other ways that even our physics can't explain.
Well, I think that there's no doubt, Daryl, there's no doubt that the unseen is a much greater realm than the seen. I mean, biblically, that is correct as well. I would also say this in trying to grab a hold of these things. Okay, by very definition, everything biblical or satanic or celestial is extraterrestrial. And I think that our big struggle among us as Christians, among those of us here who are Christians, is we have built this construct that everything biblical that refers to everything celestial is either what we have described or imagined as an angel or as a demon. But in fact, there are all these celestial beings that God Almighty has created that are in all different realms throughout the universe that are loyal to Him. And then there has also been excursions in the midst of that. And then they manifest in different ways. So I don't know if that answers your question or not.
That did. And I'll land with this, particularly coming from my experience in Christianity, where it's kind of hard to have this conversation because everybody, I call them oversaved. they're so heavenly bound that they ain't no damn earthly good, you know, and they just focus on getting their robe, and they're not doing the work like you are doing, you know, which is bringing heaven on earth to other people, or walking out that anointing that you have. So the question then kind of remains with me, rather than just saying I'm living a life so I can go to heaven, and I'm just going through getting my ticket punched, as is the common Christian attitude. And however, the big game at the end of the day, I don't think it's really just about just following the steps of Jesus. It's also doing the works, and you're doing those works that Christ would be doing. So at the end of the day, though, what is the big game here? What would you say after talking with kids who have been through these horrific things, through ritualistic abuse, dealing with other entities? What would you say at the end of the day? What are they here to do, and what are they trying to prevent us from doing?
Such a great question, and I appreciate that, brother. Okay, so at the end of the day, what these cats are up to doing is they are literally, if you're going to ask me as a Christian, I'm going to tell you that it is literally salvation is only offered to the sons of Adam, and they are here to change our DNA. They are here to get us to worship them, to take their knowledge, and what they want to be able to say legally to God Almighty is they want to be able to say, this is not your creation, it is in fact our creation, and hands off. You can't intervene in any way whatsoever. The seed war beginning in Genesis chapter 3, going all the ways, and then before the days of Noah, right? Or the days of Noah is always considered pre-flood, which has to do with the intermingling of the seed, and it has to do with DNA corruption. In fact, all the earth, the Bible says, was corrupted. Even the plants, even the fish in the sea, and even the birds of the air. They were after the DNA of all of these things. And I think that it makes total sense, therefore, that Christ would say, oh, you want to know what it's like before I come back? Well, it's as it was in the days of Noah. That's what he said. And I think at the end of the day, what these things are after is after the legality of this realm, because they're also a bunch of sniveling lawyers. They're after the legality of this realm to say this DNA is not your creation. This day is our creation. Therefore, you cannot intervene.
I like your explanation. I like that. It doesn't explain the suffering and the looting. I was working with a guy years ago. We were convinced that there were children being, and still are, being trafficked underneath the Getty Museum. And we campaigned against that for 3 or 4 years. I've got no proof of it. And I've interviewed women who were victims of trafficking and SA. And uh, and the loosh, we hear about even in the Vatican. Not to discredit anybody affiliated with Catholicism, but I look at what happened through churches, and there's histories of after well, of the bodies, the kids, and some of the parishioners who were guilty of abusing other boys and girls, but instead of them being held accountable, they just sent them to another parish. There's never any consequences. So that's where religion, I think, for me, is taking a really bad name and a bad turn, particularly after the advent of all of these the mega churches. People stopped going to church into I think at one point, 1,500 small churches were closing every month in the United States about 15 years ago. So I think we've kind of lost that church, the real doctrine of what real spirituality was about. And I'll land right there, because I think the big distinction for me, people say, well, Bishop, what happened to you? Did you stop believing in God? And says, no, my spirituality just outdistanced my religiosity. So I appreciate what you said in terms of that spiritual realm, because I believe we're here for our spiritual development. But thank you so
And
much.
Daryl, I think this is the reason why Pastor Allen kind of floored me. I didn't expect this to happen because I have my own battles with religion. Like, my abuse was at the hands twice at religious institutions, right? And then I had a religious. I'm not even going to go there. There's just been a number of different things that have kind of not made me turn my back on it, but made me question it. And like you say, I found my spirituality. But I've messaged Alan and his wife about this. Like, he has helped me have a bit more faith when it comes to the religious side of things. And I understand that being gay, it's frowned upon and all of those kind of things. And that's something that I have to wrestle with, and you guys' perceptions as Christians also has to wrestle with it. But you make me feel accepted. You're all in my space. Do you know what I mean? So I have to take that as okay, don't make it too much of a big deal. But at the same time, there is a limit as well when it comes to how far I think the any religion was able to help my consciousness expand, and that's how I kind of see it. And when I found the UFO community, I saw them as the most expansive. I mean, you hear Fringe speak, that you hear how Red is so intelligent. There's Astral, there's 𝗂𝗏, there's so many of them that I can name, right? And that's what I am attracted to, that level of expansive awareness. But then I found, these pastors who are also able to speak on it and then relate it to the Christian faith. So now I'm in this kind of moment where I'm like, okay, something interesting is happening. I don't know if it's just the time that we're in because UFOs has become so mainstream. And now these guys have kind of emerged as people who are really owning this topic as well as their Christian faith. I find it so impressive because someone who's grown up with Christians around me all my life, these aren't the type of topics that they would even entertain. So you're just helping me on so many levels, and that's why I really value this. As I'm speaking, I did make a note because this has been so life changing for me personally. Pastor Alan, Pastor Troy, if you guys come back or whatever, would you be able to connect us with Joseph Z? I was listening to his work, and he is also phenomenal. And he was talking about the visions. And last week, Alan, you heard the gift that I have and that my family have. I would love to have a space with him around maybe UFOs and the end of days and the visions we see. What do you pastors think of that?
Of course, man. In fact, when you shared that vision with me, I immediately thought of Joseph Z and thought we need to get y'all connected because I don't know anybody who understands the prophetic, how to flow in the prophetic, these kinds of giftings better than him. And I even wanted to ask Pastor Troy because there's so many people in this space who have been hurt by Christianity, who have been hurt by dead religion, if we could put it that way. And you hear these testimonies, Pastor Troy. What's your message to folks out there who are now starting to see there's something to maybe this over here, there's something to this over here, and finally the church is joining the conversation? What would you say to that?
Well, I'd like to start off saying, yeah, gosh, you know what, Daz? Just as a pastor and as somebody who represents Jesus, man, I'm so sorry that happened to you, man. And I've said that to countless kids throughout the world and as well. Also, too, for my good friend Daryl, and just say, I'm sorry that you were rejected when you started seeing things that they didn't see. And I I don't even know what to say except for I understand. I guarantee you that Pastor Allen, he understands as well. Here's my message. My message is the reason I'm such a Jesus guy still, and the reason why is because what I find is that not in the midst of the constructs of religion and the systems that people build to protect themselves and make themselves look cool so that they can have power over people. But in the context of Jesus, in the context of him, what I find in studying the world, and as I've been to 64 nations, I've rescued kids in the majority of those nations. And I deal with all different cultures, all different religions, all over the world. What I find in Jesus is I find something so unique and so compelling to me and so life-giving to me that blows my mind is there's nobody that loves kids the way that Jesus does. Jesus said, suffer the children to come unto me. And he also says the only time that Jesus gets gangster where he says, I will literally tie a millstone around your neck and throw you into the depths of the sea as if you hurt a child. I mean, those are the words of Jesus. I mean, he's not a hippie. He's actually, he's actually amazing. And he sounds like a gangster there. But also I recognize that in the course of humanity, in the history of the world, and I know that this is a smart group of people, but you guys search it out and tell me if I'm wrong on this, but I have never been able to find in ancient Egypt and Babylon among the Medes and the Persians, the Greeks and the Romans, among all the great world empires, there was never, ever, ever one time a place where any of those societies protected children or fed people or took care of old people or defended the weak in any way whatsoever until the words of Jesus Christ came unto all of those nations. Here I am, a sixth generation Texan, and I come from before the Texans. I came from Britain, and before Britain, I came from the hordes of the north. It never occurred to any of my ancestors to do any of that until the words of Jesus came to them. And that's when it occurs in the hearts of people of, I have got to help somebody. I have got to do something. So I don't know if that is healing to anybody or if that makes sense to anybody, but that's that. I find that only in Jesus, and I love him so much because of it.
If I don't want to hog, but I like to comment on that, Alan, and thank you for your sentiment. Um, I've heard it said that any civilization that cannot protect its own children can scarcely call itself a civilization. And that's where we are. And after listening to what you and Troy are doing, obviously we're doing a poor job of protecting our children and our most vulnerable, and that's global now. But I also wanted to say that I wouldn't trade my journey for anything. I had issues with the church, and I voluntarily left because I felt like a hypocrite because I couldn't say what I knew. I could not what I thought, but what I knew by doing my due diligence. But it's taken me on a journey to where I've met some amazing people, been to amazing places, and now I'm dealing with a lot of indigenous communities and indigenous wisdom keepers, Mayan, Aztec, Dogon tribe. So it's come back full circle that I couldn't have done that if I stayed with my position in the church. And for Daz, we can just thank you for sharing and being so open as you are. But I want to share just a really brief story about a situation I had in my church, one of the churches I pastored. My co-pastor had a son who was he's openly gay, and people in the congregation knew about it. And so sometimes Christians can be some of the most cruel people you could meet. But I let my congregation know, says, we're not going to do that. We're not judging anybody. It turns out he was probably the most thorough person I had in my whole congregation as far as being thorough with the scriptures. He was wickedly thorough. And it was always a joy having him at Bible studies and what have you, because he was just thorough. But one day he came to me and he felt really, really bad because society had ostracized him so much that he didn't think it was safe to say certain things about his relationships. And his partner died. And he said he felt terrible because his partner died and he never talked to him about Christ. He never talked to him about Jesus because he felt humiliated. The pressure that society put on him, he just never felt safe. And so he's saying he had an opportunity and he never shared the word. We ended up opening up a church for him. We seeded a church called Broken Chains. And then my co-pastor went over to pastor that church. And they are still flourishing. That's been 17 years ago. And it was for other people that felt, created an environment where people didn't judge you, no matter where you came in. And I said, we were going to treat people the way that Jesus would. And Jesus is not going to put you down and, let he was without sin cast the first stone. He didn't chastise the woman for living in adultery. So for you, Darren, I say that to you because you kind of remind me of that guy's story, and I don't want to end up anything like his. And by you being candid and forward, because you got a lot to contribute. And if society people are so small-minded that they think they know you better than you, or they're going to judge you, when we all have things. I don't know who in this room had an argument with their wife or husband this morning, who said a foul word, who's got a problem with an addiction. We all have a little something. So it takes a whole lot of nerve to point your finger at somebody else to think that their little something something is a little bigger than your something something. So just go on with your bad self and keep on doing what you're doing. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Daryl. Oh, we got 2020. 2020, we want to hear from you, but let's hear from Pastor Alan, and then we're gonna pass you the mic, and then it's Origin. We've got Authentic as well, and we've got Prometheus. So thank you for your patience, guys. Please repost the space. Go ahead, Pastor Alan.
No, I just wanted to thank you, Daz, for making this. You are a gatekeeper, and there is a prophetic gifting on your life. And without you, we wouldn't be having this conversation. And I've only heard this from other people like Fringe and yourself, that other spaces aren't like this, where you have so many diverse points of view, and you allow everyone to come on and share their point of view without attacking them, without belittling them, without cutting them off. You allow the gospel to be preached here. You allow everyone's experience to be shared here. So I want to thank you for that. And there's a reason why God's brought us all together for this time. And I think we're going to find out what that is real soon.
I feel that, and I said that to you and your wife. Like, I feel it, and I think we just need to take note of this time that we're in, because it is a serious time. And they've been speaking about end of days, as far back as I can remember. And my spirit tells me that we're kind of like at the end of days. Like I said of the vision, that family member, I told you who it was, but they've asked me not to, disclose in space. So I have to respect that. But who it was, Pastor Adam, to whom will know as well. But she's a very gifted soul, very close to me. And it was only about a month ago she had that dream. And the dream was similar to what Pastor Allen had when he was 28 or 27, I believe, with this big golden clock with the Roman numerals. Pastor Allen's 28 years ago, I think it was 11:59. This family member who had this dream only a month ago, now the same clock's in the air, it's at 12 and it's chiming. And when I asked her, I said, what does your spirit tell you that God was trying to say? And she says, time's up, time's up. So if there's any reason why I'm bringing everyone together now, it's because of that dream. Because I know how powerful and gifted this family member of mine is, and I saw how moved she was by this, and I'm like, yeah, we can't just keep having the conversation. We have to be doing things, and I think both of you represent people who are doing things, not only with your ministry and your word, but with also saving the children. There's so many people on this platform that just talk and just use these spaces to just talk, but you guys are pastors preaching the word, preaching your belief, and you're saving children. People can't disrespect you. I wouldn't allow it. It has nothing to do about your Christian faith, me not being a Christian. I see your integrity and you stand for who you are. Like I try to stand for who I am. So that's why this is happening. I appreciate you and value both of you. Thank you so much. 2020. Thank you for your patience. Over to you.
Hey, thanks for having me up, guys. Appreciate it. And Daz, man, I'm praying for you, brother. Some of the most biggest heroes in the Bible were the most wrecked people. So there's hope for me. There's hope for you. And I love you, brother, and thanks. And Troy, Alan, and Daryl, thank you for your service in what you guys are doing, working for the Lord. I appreciate it so much. My background, a few of you know, I've spent over 30 years in covert operations and classified operations in several different agencies within the government. And Alan and Troy, a question I have, I got a couple questions, and then something that you guys said sparked some research that I had done. I write books now, and I got a book that's currently in editing. And I spent time out on the Hopi Reservation. The book is going to take place in that neck of the woods. And you had mentioned Bright Star sort of coming down on one of the temples, and the local people knew exactly what it was. And the thing that it triggered for me, I spent probably a month up in northern Arizona last winter researching, and not many people know it. And when my book comes out, it, it should open a few eyes. Just so you know, I write fictions. uh, the topics that I want to write would never make it through DOPSR or the DHS review board processing. And I have a friend that's an author, Jack Carr, told me a long time ago, write a fiction. Whatever you have to say, write a fiction, and just make sure that you don't put any classified material in it. So I try to keep the storylines as accurate as possible. If you read any of my books and do any minimal research, you're going to find that everything in there is pretty much 100% spot on. And the storylines are taken from interviews from real people. And one question before I get Troy and Alan, do you ever work with Guardian Group or Aerial Recovery or Dark Horse or any of those NGOs? Are you aware of those?
Yeah, I'm aware of some of those, but no, I do not. No, sir.
Okay, if you're interested in learning more about them, just send me a PM sometime, and I'll point you in some direction. What those groups are is Patriot retired veterans or disabled veterans that still want to stay in the game, and all they do is rescue children, and 100%. And they fund projects. I'm guessing. Some of these groups could probably fund some of the things that you may be doing, Troy, but I don't know that for sure. One of the reasons that Daz brought me up in Fringe, you're speaking on behalf of NHI and the human trafficking that you guys have seen through non-human intelligence. And with my background and everything that I've witnessed, I am a witness. I'm not a whistleblower, and I've made that clear on a couple of different occasions. But I've been very, very close to the heart of the beast, and I am 1,000% aware of the defense industry and their hands in the government, and they're almost the puppet master for a lot of the government's agencies that are out there. And so, with that, uh, both of my books that are currently out, there is targeted children that these, I call it the defense agencies in the book, they're called the program. And what the program does is research and locate kids that cognitively fit their needs. And in one instance, um, the brutality that ensued to capture the child and turn the child into basically a defense asset who actually became a pilot for an ARV, a replication vehicle. Uh, During that process, they wiped out his entire family, so he didn't have anyone to defend him or speak for him. And the program essentially took him over. And in the second book, there's a child that is a witness or is an experiencer, and through the experience has become able to receive downloads. And through these downloads, the child is an artist, and she can see 100% inside some of these vehicles. And so through her art, she draws the vehicles and different places inside the vehicles. And her father is one of the main characters in the book. Um, he receives some of these pictures through the satellite phones that he has assigned. Now, within the government, many of the tier one, tier two operators, covert operators, they're monitored 100% of the time. All the phones are monitored. It's monitored through the NSA. And what the books explain is how deep of a reach that people don't even they don't even begin to understand the reach that these contractors have. And if you think about it, if you know what the NSA is, they're basically a grand building of wiretaps, constantly doing wiretaps. Okay, those are mostly government employees, but there's also a shit ton of contractors in there, and the equipment is all classified. But the equipment needs updates, right? And so who updates all that equipment? Well, the defense industry does, the contractors who maintain them. So the program, imagines, has access constantly to everything. A B-1 bomber, the Air Force doesn't upgrade their software. The contractors of the industry update that software. Nuclear submarines, the Navy doesn't upgrade the submarines, the contractors do. And people don't understand that nothing out there is actually, the military operate it, the Defense Department operates it, but the defense industry creates it, maintains it, and adjusts it. And so my point is, these books that I have written give you a look from that point of view. And the getting back, I'm trying to stay on track, getting back to the child, they target the child, the family in book 2, and the coldness and calculationness and the thoroughness of the surveillance operation just to kidnap one kid is mind-blowing. And what you guys are seeing down there with NHI is certainly mind-blowing. Um, it's absolutely not excusable for sure, but we have our own defense industry doing exactly similar things. And the purpose that they're doing it is to try to catch up to the race that the NHI has. They have, obviously a lead in that race. And so some of the gruesomeness that occurs from the defense industry is well documented in both of these books and the third one coming out. Sorry if I'm blavacating here, but I just wanted to point out that all this stuff is going on the other side of the house too.
Nope. Did you finish?
Yeah, I just want to thank those guys for speaking up on this, and I'm more than happy to put them in contact with some of these veteran groups that they're worldwide doing rescue missions constantly, and also to highlight the defense industry is exactly doing the same thing. Are you guys familiar, either one of you, with Linda Napolitano from 1989?
I am not. No, sir, I'm not.
Linda Napolitano was an experiencer that claims that she was kidnapped by NHI, much like Fringe has been, went aboard a ship and had ongoing experience. And the defense industry got wind of this, and they actually kidnapped her to interrogate her about what happened in that ship. And it's a little known highlight that's out there. If you Google or research it, you can find her name and a little bit about information about it. But that's really one of the cases that spurred me with, as close as I've worked with the defense industry and of course the government, these are little milestones along the way that most people don't even are aware that they've happened.
Yeah, 2020, that was actually an important case because she actually had 2 witnesses from law enforcement who witnessed her being floated out of her 12-story window and floated into the UFO. And I believe there was also another part of that case where the UN Inspector General was abducted shortly after that. I don't want to get those things wrong. Pastor Allen and Pastor Troy, did you want to comment at all on those things 2020 was highlighting?
Yeah, especially as it all comes around to this, because I think Troy can speak to this perfectly. And I want to reiterate, If there's anyone we can trust, even to a previous commenter, like where do we call? Who do we reach out to? Redemption Ranch is the ministry to reach out to. So maybe in a minute, Troy can share kind of how you can connect with him. And definitely, if you're not following him on X, be sure to follow him on X. I kind of dabble on X every once in a while. Troy's like, he and his team do an amazing job putting some amazing content out there. But, and in a minute, guys, I actually have to run into a meeting. But I want to say this. The stories that I've heard from Troy about satanic ritual abuse, with the kids that he has rescued. Even Troy, you may, I don't know if you can or share one of the stories of one of the kids who was rescued down in the home we went down in Mexico. The story behind that is just heart-wrenching, and this connection, it can't be ignored, which is why, and it's hopeless. This entire situation is hopeless, and a conspiracy theory is a great way to become a victim, because there's this massive unseen force that's bigger than you, stronger than you, more resources than you, and there's no hope unless there's something bigger than that. And that's the message that I want to leave you guys on today before I run. You guys keep the conversation going, but there is hope. There is healing if you've been through this in Christ, in Jesus, by trusting in him. And there is hope because there is organizations. There are organizations you can trust in these matters, and that's what Troy Brewer does. So I just want to thank y'all for everything. I hope we'll do this again with Joseph Z.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
Alan,
One second,
last thing.
2020. Hold the thought, because he's gonna go. It's been amazing pleasure having you here again, Pastor Alan. We'll see how long Pastor Troy will stay with us now that you've gone. Let's hope that he stays with us a little bit longer, because there's people that have had their hand up for about an hour, and at least they're going to hopefully get to speak with one of you. But it's been amazing having the two of you here. So amazing. Go ahead, 2020.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I tried to get like 20 minutes worth of talk in four or 5 minutes. But one of the things point that I wanted to say with regards to the temple down there in Bright Ball that the locals have seen, and the research that I did out at the Hopi Reservation, I was going to try to bring all that back around. Out there in that reservation area, most people don't know this, but there's Nike silos that are out there. Missile silos, and they cover the ground from northern Arizona. They dip up into Utah, and it's all on reservation property, and nobody really knows it. And one of the topics that I was talking to them about, in their prophecy, the father and the mother are waiting for the brother to come back, and when the brother comes back, then the new world either starts or this world ends. And that's sort of the theme of the Hopi prophecy. And one of the things that I was hearing over and over from people, mostly teenagers and young adults, they have a lot of time to kill up there, and they visit these Nike sites. And so the rumor has always been that UFOs come and hover over the sites and shine lights down in it and probably make sure that or test the nuclear whatever. And so I would ask them, all right, tell me about the lights over the Nike sites in the missile silos. And they said, well, yeah, at nighttime a lot of times lights will come over, but it's usually the government doing things. And I've said, well, how do you know that it's the government doing things? And this is the chill that was what their answer was. Well, if it's the star people, they'll stop and they'll visit with us. Now think about that. And I heard that from multiple witnesses, like dozens would tell me if it's the people from outer space, they would stop and visit with us. But if it's the government, they're just doing their job at nighttime and move on. And that's all. That was the last thing I said. And Daz, Fringe, thanks for having me up here. I got to cut out too here in a few minutes, but man, this was a great and important, very, very important space. Thanks.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. Pastor Troy, are you all right for time? How long do we have you for? Because I just know that people are speaking and keep coming back in, and they're really excited. But I don't know how long we're going to have you for. To whom did ask about an hour ago, but now I have to check.
No, it's okay. I'm happy to. So I've got about another 20 to 30 minutes, and then people are going to start showing up.
Oh, did we lose him, Fringe?
Oh, no, I'm still here. I'm sorry. I thought my mic was on. No, I have another 20 to 30 minutes. So let's answer some of these questions.
Okay, so guys, please be mindful of that. We can't have like 10-minute shares and stuff like that now. He's only got 20 minutes. Origin has had his hand up for a long time. Authentic didn't even get a chance to speak in the last space. So I said to her, if you come back, I'm gonna give you priority, and we've got Prometheus here as well. So Fringe, if you can be quick, and then we're gonna go to Authentic, Origin, Prometheus. Go ahead, Fringe.
Yeah, unfortunately, mine isn't quick, but I do have a question for Pastor Troy. First, thank you so much again for being here. And you said something earlier. I just wanted to bring the conversation back to this point. You mentioned something about the sons of Adam and the seed war and how these entities are changing our DNA. And I have been to the point where I myself wondered if I could even be saved, because what these entities try to do is they get in our heads, especially as an abductee. You know, they say things like, we own you. This is a prison planet. We're in charge of everything. This is an ant farm and we own you, and you might as well just join us, you know, and be on our side. And so it's really important to understand the seed war that Pastor Troy was discussing. Part of this agenda, and Carla Turner would speak to this agenda about how they actually want us to hand them the planet. And so when these aliens, if they ever do show themselves, uh, these aliens are going to want us to agree to hand over our planet. So when they show up here as our saviors, potentially, so what they say they're going to do, we'll see. They're going to show up as our saviors, and they're going to offer us things. They're going to give us gifts, like maybe a cure for cancer, or, oh, you silly humans are hitting each other with nuclear weapons, and we're going to put a stop to that, and we're going to save all of you. They're going to want us to hand the planet over to them. And it's to Pastor Troy's point of this very strange legalism, that they all think that they're attorneys, and they're going to try to present a case to God that we're no longer eligible to be saved, and that not only that, we've actually given them our planet. So these are really important concepts. Daz, that was such a powerful testimony between you and Pastor Allen. I do want to say, Daz, and I need to point this out, it's not going to be very quick. The alien religion is the religion that says it wants you to expand your consciousness and you can be God. The alien religion, and having been through their indoctrination program, that I can speak to this in entire confidence. The alien religion is Gnostic, Luciferian, New Age. That is the alien religion. They do not want you to believe in God, Yahweh of the Bible. They do not want you to believe in Christ. They want you to believe anything other than that. So this is not only a seed war, it is a war for our hearts and minds and souls. Andra asked earlier in the space, what is the currency? What is the currency here? And the currency is our life force energy, our soul energy. They want to get us away from God, period. And so my question here for Pastor Troy is, when you were discussing these occult rituals, you discussed children being chained to idols while they were being abused. Did you get any information on what these traffickers are trying to accomplish by engaging in these rituals? So we're not just talking about just sexual abuse, which is bad enough. We're talking about occult rituals taking place during the sexual abuse. And this is potentially in exchange for things like technology and protection. They might be even praying over their drugs and the cartels. I mean, I had a lot of cases where we saw in people's homes altars and such. So I wanted to get back to the occult rituals, Pastor Troy, and what were these people accomplishing or thought they were accomplishing with these rituals. And again, thank you so much for being here.
Okay, my goodness. Yeah, there's a bunch in that, which is awesome. There's so much in that I just go, yes, 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 100%. Okay, so first of all, in answering the DNA, like, okay, so if they, for one thing, I do not believe that even if you have some form of Nephilim blood at this stage, that, you know, you're non-redeemable. I think that all of these monsters are liars and deceivers. They want you defeated in every single way. They want you to believe that you're helpless, that you're hopeless. until you're not, and until you push back, and then it's like, whoa, they're dealing with something different. So I mean, like if I had a pig valve in my heart, which is common, people have heart conditions, they get a pig valve. Okay, are we saying that they are non-eligible for redemption if they have a pig valve? Well, of course not. Now that I've said that, I do think that there's a place where you cross the line, that you literally trans. Okay, and so it's totally a trans. It's a whole trans thing. And the Bible says that Gilgamesh or Nimrod became a mighty man. He literally went through a process of total subjugation through agreement and also through ritual that made him a mighty man, a builder of cities and a hunter of men. Earlier, Pastor Allen, he mentioned that Nebuchadnezzar, he became something else. And so they want us to go into agreement into total subjugation and also total subjugation of all of our territories, whether that is our will, our bodies, our mind, or what it is that we are responsible for stewarding. They want all of those realms. Secondly, I would say when you were asking what was their point of why are there always altars in these cartel rooms where they bring these children. It's twofold. Number one, they believe that they are giving these entities power, and in return the entities give them power back, whatever that is. And it is mostly protection, and it's also inside information on where to go, what to go, how to avoid the police, how to avoid this, how to avoid that. But secondly, they're also, in the midst of this unbelievable abuse that they put these children through, they are looking for what they call talented kids, which means that in the midst of a proper ritualism that they go through, they discover some that can see into other places, some that can see into the future, some that can see they can actually join up with another child, and then they pair those kids off. They like to put them in threes. I've noticed that all throughout the world, that they put them in threes. And it's a lot like, what was that? I can't remember what that movie was that Tom Cruise was in, The Minority Report.
Minority Report, Pastor.
Yeah. So I promise you, brother, it is so much like that. And they actually see, they will pair them up, and then they will put them in threes. And then what happens is when one is so fragmented and so messed up that they are no longer able to cooperate with the other children, they just put them into trafficking, into just regular trafficking. And in the course of rescuing children all over the world, I came across this oddity. This is part of the thing that sent me down the rabbit hole with the red pill. We rescued a little girl in Nepal. I think the first one was in Nepal, and she was from South Africa. And I thought, man, I asked her, "What are you doing here?" And she's like, "I don't know." And she didn't even know where she'd been. She didn't even know any of these things. But her name was Elshan. Okay. That little girl has since grown up, and she's since grown up from that. It wasn't very long after that, I would say within proper 2 or 3 years, we rescued a white girl in Uganda. We do a lot of rescue in Uganda and in Congo. And her name, and she was also from South Africa, and her name also began with an L. And her name was L, what is her name? It's L something. Please forgive me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I rescued a girl in Nepal and her name began with L. And I just thought it was strange. It began with EL, kind of like Elon, right? It just began with EL from South Africa. And then in the Amazon, we also rescued a girl, and she was highly traumatized, highly messed up, fragmented. And what's real is when I rescued the fifth one, so I've rescued 5 in 5 different nations. I've rescued 5 girls, actually 1 boy and 4 girls that they came from South Africa. They were in a trafficking ring, a highly structured cartel trafficking ring, and they didn't really know where they'd come from. They didn't have memory. The memories that they had were all fragmented. And then as they grew up, and as they got more and more healed, and as they got more and more productive and got more and more of their mind back, I actually started getting these guys together, and we would get together through Zoom, and they would share their stories, and they were literally part of a talented program.
And it's global. I promise you, it is global. I give you my word, it is global.
What do you mean
And then
talented program? What kind of talent?
they were looking for supernatural talent. They were looking for sixth sense and seventh sense abilities to be able to look into things and to be able to speak into things. And it's like something like a supernatural intel program.
Yeah, it's like
And
the Montauk Project. We literally had a space with someone from the Montauk Project with AJ, and Billy
yes,
Carson was there, and that was about the children
yes,
and the trauma, and they used the
yes.
trauma to
It is.
ignite the psychic powers.
I promise you that is, and it's also collaborated throughout the nations of different cartels, depending upon what level they are at. And then what happens is the lower levels, they get these kids that are too messed up, they're too fragmented, they're too traumatized, and they just, if they begin to become inverted, they're like, okay, well, we can't communicate with this kid anymore, and they will just put them into regular trafficking. They'll sell them off to lower ranking trafficking. And I mean, if you think about Stranger Things, her name is Elle. Her name is Elle. And I was like, oh my gosh, you got to be kidding me. Whenever Stranger Things came out, I was like, why is her name Elle? And then I give you the truth when I tell you this. A woman came to my church and she asked to actually meet with me. She actually asked to meet with me. Hang on just a second. Hey man, I'm in here, brother. Come here. Anyway, she actually asked to meet with me, and her name. She came into my office, and she said, "I have a story I want to tell you." And I said, "What is your name?" And she said, "My name is 𝗓𝗓𝗓. Elzon is what she goes by." And I was like, "Are you from South Africa?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "I already know about you." And she just began crying. So she owns a ballet company in Austin, Texas. She's highly successful. She's wonderful, but she went through the same exact program and she's a grown adult. So I cannot deny these things. When you rescue these kids and then they become adults and they all collaborate, you can't say that these people are making this thing up.
Any association with Elohim?
Yes, I would say so. I would say with godlike powers.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I'm just aware of the time and I'm trying to get to the people that have been waiting for like an hour and a half. Like I want to get Origin in, Miss Authentic, this Authentic and Prometheus. Origin, go ahead then, Authentic and Prometheus. Thank you so much, Pastor Troy, and we'll have you as long as you can stay. Go ahead, Origin.
Sorry about that. So I had to find I was had to find the mic button. Man, all right. I'm gonna be quick. I wrote stuff down, but I'm definitely gonna condense it. I'm thankful, definitely thankful. First, I want to say the devil infiltrated every religion on the planet, every single one, especially Jesus. We've seen that if you studied Paul and his journey across the Middle East, where everything is going on to this day, they couldn't really stop Christianity, so they had to infiltrate it, which is why Christianity is probably the number one attacked religion on the planet, while also being the number one religion on the planet. So it's very interesting. Troy, Pastor Troy, I've watched many of your interviews, especially the one where you're speaking about seeing the Nephilim in South America. I'm very thankful. I've also researched. Looked into how I could join your cause, which I will get to when I'm finished speaking. Alan left. I had something to say to him, but he left. I'm thankful to have bumped into him because of Daz. My background, real quickly, is I'm a researcher etymologist. I grew up a Seventh-day Adventist, dated a lot of Baptist women, went to Catholic school, had Muslim friends, and at age of 28, I looked at religion, kind of similar maybe to Daryl, and said, I'm going to become an atheist. I decided to go down the first rabbit hole I decided to go down was the alien one, and got spun back to the Bible several times to the point where I'm on the sixth read of the Bible. I'm on a 2-year plan reading the Bible. I also studied the English language with linguistics, and that has opened up another world of understanding how everything is going on. I've also looked into the apocryphal books. I heard you mention the book of Enoch, and I tell people the apocryphal books are this kind of like supplemental books to the Bible, or the rated R version of what the Bible kind of makes PG or PG-13. And some people might not even say it's PG-13. But You were mentioning like the Nephilim mating with women to corrupt genetics, and sorry, no, you were mentioning the genetics and seed war, and I found that very interesting, just like Fringe did, because they say the Nephilim mated with human women, and they also mated with animals. They were doing so many different things genetically. In Joshua 2, from the book of Enoch, I also remember that they came down and gave humans technology, right? Technology, how to wear makeup, how to build weapons, stuff of that nature. And I found it's really interesting when you connect it to the Bible, because in Joshua, there's a point where God is reassuring Joshua's army to not be afraid of the people that had iron. And I found that strange. I'm like, oh, wow. This kind of like, confirms what's in the book of Enoch. I have a different stance to what you were saying with the end game, the end goal. That's the only thing I see it from a different side. I see it very similar, but the end goal, in my opinion, is that from the Book of Enoch, them giving them iron and technology, or what I call techno sorcery and world power, was to have the continuous advancement of iron, which led to guns and even nuclear weapons, and now our present day computer hardware, which is like the biggest point. I would say that these entities went underground, right, and operate in the shadows and are in the highest forms of government, which is why when you were speaking about the how hard it was to take care of trafficked children in America, I'm like, that makes sense right there. It shouldn't be difficult, especially in one of the greatest countries in the world. It should actually be easier, right? But it's not. I also remember while you were speaking about a guy from the FBI named Ted Gunderson. I don't know if you've heard of him. In the Johnny Gosh story. Have you heard of him, Pastor Troy?
I have. Yeah, I actually have.
Okay, and I remembered all the things he was saying and how he kind of was doing what you were doing back in the 70s and 80s, trying to get alert, a lot of different government agencies, and they turned they back to him as well, or gave him uh trouble. When it comes to the human trafficking and stuff like that, um I realized the Epstein files further confirm these transgressions against humanity. So what I want to say, because I'm like literally going to finish now, is that Satan's ultimate goal is to be like God, right? He wants to be all present, which if you can see it today, it's a surveillance system. He wants to be all knowing, which we can tie to the data centers and the collection of our information. And he wants to be all powerful, which is tied to our finances. This is why a lot of things are going cashless. We barely use cash anymore, which is tied to Revelation 13 to 18. All of the animal sacrifice, human sacrifice, abominations of bestiality, consumption of blood and genetics was all for Satan to kind of try and figure out how he can be like God. Um, you spoke a lot about the joys of Jesus, and I respect that as well. I tell people, Jesus, God put himself inside of a human being, and sacrificing and being a sacrifice was a checkmate game. So Satan's rebuttal to that was to anger God through free will, to get humans to forsake themselves and their connections to God and live in an imitation heaven he's trying to create or creating right now, which is a digital future world. Now human trafficking and abductions in conjunction with the digital heaven Satan and the demonic want to figure out is not only to use life but to create it just like God. So when people are having, experiencing alien abductions and there's a lot of genetic play or sexual exploitation or exploration, that is his attempt to try to figure out how to be like God, because he can do everything but create life from nothing. So this is why a lot of the things that's going on the planet with the human trafficking, the Nephilim, all of it is tied together. And that's kind of where I stand, where he's like, because he can't beat God, he's trying to get humans through free will to forsake God and join his digital heaven. I hope that makes sense. My only question is like, how can someone like me be of assistance to the movement? I saw some of the requirements that I don't meet, I think financially, but I still want to be of help somehow, some way.
Okay, well, thank you, brother. Look, I don't think I disagree with what you just said, and I think it goes with what I said respectfully, and so I agree. And it's a great great answer, and you're definitely well studied. I would just tell everybody, wherever you're at on the planet Earth, find somebody in your region that is rescuing or fighting this fight, and rescue the rescuers, and support them and help them and stand with them and publicize what they do. Find somebody in your own region and say, hey, I'm going to really diligently look at whatever level. If it's people, that have homes for prostitutes and they're getting people off the streets, or if it's people that are actually involved in really high level stuff, just rescue a rescuer, brother. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
That's amazing. Wow. My friend Many Face from Clubhouse. I see Maze, our other friend from Clubhouse as well. Daryl's just gone. We all know each other from that. Preservation of the Human Race brought so many great minds together, Pastor Troy. And a lot of us have come over here, and then we found even more great minds. My buddy Victor's here as well. He does fantastic spaces. Carmen does Patriot spaces, but also really there for the children. There's so many fantastic people here, but I do want to pass it on to this authentic. Like I said, she didn't get a chance to speak last time, and she's been so patient again today. So I'm glad that she's still here and has the opportunity to speak to you. So over to you, this authentic.
Thanks, Daz. Friends, this space has been amazing. Pastor Troy, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to try, I also have notes because I'm going to try to condense these. So for the sake of time. So ever since kind of stumbling across ritual abuse, mind control, that has been something that I've dove really, really far into the rabbit hole on. Part of it is because I went to school for psychology. I'm fascinated with just the fact that they figured out how to literally program a human's brain like a computer. And, one of the things that I'm very, very aware of, unfortunately, is there's a lot of wolves in sheep's clothing when it comes to human trafficking, nonprofits and foundations that claim to be helping, but they actually are harming. And so I just had a couple questions, and I was not saying like everything you've said in this space thus far has piqued my interest. And frankly, I'm looking for different programs to partner with to help, to help survivors of this like horrific abuse. But I'm curious on a couple different things, if you don't mind. And I don't, for the sake of time, obviously we can't go into the weeds. So if there's someplace that you can kind of point me in the direction to get further information, please do so. But I've noticed that it sounds like it's very difficult to help like people that have been trafficked within the United States. And a lot of your focus is internationally, which is fantastic. But my experience and the stuff that like what the survivors I work with are all in the US. And I'll just, is one of the notes I wrote down is in 1998, I don't know if you know who 𝗏𝘗𝗏 and Cisco Wheeler are, but they wrote a book and they estimated that there's approximately 2 million individuals that are currently under mind control worldwide. That means at least conservatively, probably a couple 100,000 in the United States. And what I really want to know is like, what's the top 3 things, in your opinion, being that you've worked in this environment for a long time, that needs to happen within the US? That, because they just had the, oh my gosh, the MK Ultra hearings, and frankly, I think there were a lot of survivors that were offended with how like they just skimmed the surface, the tip like of the iceberg, and it goes so deep. And it's something that really does need to be addressed. And so I just, would love to hear from you, like what needs to happen to make it easier to help these individuals that live in the US.
Okay, those are all great things, and thank you for your work. I'm grateful for you. I got a ton of psychologist friends, as you can imagine, and plus I need all the help that I can get as well. So thank you. Okay, there's 3 different my top 3 things when it comes to rescuing and helping people here within the United States works like this. Number 1, people have got to be able to there needs to be okay, number 1, it's got all of the rescue and all of the raising has to come out of the secrecy or the privacy of the CPS system. There needs to be greater access to people who actually do rescues to the attorney generals here within the United States. And what I mean by that is, like in Mexico, we work directly with the attorney generals. We have our own departments that we can report to, that once we do the intel, once we hand it to them, we can actually hold them responsible or bring them into the light of, did they do the follow-up and did they do the thing? That doesn't happen here within the United States. And so a lot of times we'll go to rescue a kid and we can't legally go and kick down the door and then drag them out, kicking and screaming. So we have to work with local law enforcement, and they just won't do anything. They just won't. It's like one of my friends discussed earlier. So that, man, he doesn't trust calling 911 for anything because they might turn things over to the underbelly. Well, what we find is it's not even that. They just won't even do anything. And you can't work with a sheriff department, and there's nobody to go to from state to state that is like the czar that has to stay in the light, that you can go to hold these guys accountable. The second thing is the licensing is, as I discussed earlier, to be able to actually raise these kids does not exist in the United States outside of untold millions of dollars, which means it has to be corporately sponsored. And that's not good. It's not good at all. And then the third thing of that is the funding and the ongoing raising of these kids. While it seems to be easily found for invisible children from around the world here that don't even exist, the people that are actually trying to, or actually are able to accomplish some limited form of licensing, they can't keep up with the cost of it because it's such a money pit. And so I don't know if that's helpful, but those are things that I'm addressing. And quite frankly, if I can say this too, if you want to end human trafficking in the United States, and I know a lot of people are not going to like this, you have to deal with pornography. Pornography is how it's funded. Pornography is how it's recruited. The power of pornography is how people are actually connected to children. And so people don't realize that pornography is highly monetized. As long as you're watching it, you are either watching a crime scene, or in fact, friends, you are actually funding a crime scene, even if you've never bought anything. And then the more that you stay into pornography, the more it grooms you to get into more and more violence, and younger and younger and younger. And it also teaches you how to surf the dark web, so that by the time that you are looking at children on pornography, which takes about 8,000 hours. If you watch pornography for 8,000 hours, you know how to find children. And so, and that's the truth. And then once you actually are able to find kids and actually view kids, they know your IP address. They start instant messaging you, and then they know where you live, and they'll say, meet us here, meet us there. And then you go to actually molest a child. And if you go to actually molest a child, if you do that one time, you will do that at least 70 more times. 70. So if you go to the border, to go across the border, or if you go to the edgy part of town because you were directed there through pornography to actually meet a child that you are actually viewing and spend money to molest that child, if you do that one time, you will do that at least 70 more times. So we have to be able to admit, hey, listen, we need to be able to express and experience our own sexuality without pornography in it whatsoever.
Pastor Troy,
Thank
I
you.
just want to jump in on that. I apologize, Authentic. I think it's really important what you just said, because a lot of people watch pornography and there's absolutely no children in sight, yet they have no idea, and they're really not thinking that the money that's made from that pornography is actually being used to fund the trafficking of children. And so I just want
1,000%.
you to comment on that. And then I'd love for you to comment before we close. I know Daz is trying to wrap it up here on, let's not forget the demonic entities that are around, and they feed off of our life force energy. They feed off of this degenerate type of activity. And these demonic entities are going to be pushing and pushing and pushing the envelope until you get into the really dark stuff. So I think it's important for people to understand that watching pornography is a lot much deeper than it appears. And it's not just, old fuddy-duddy Christians who are saying, hey, don't watch pornography. It's not good. It's not good for you. It's not, it attracts a demonic activity, and it's being used to fund child trafficking.
Fringe, if I can just ask two really quick follow-ups, and literally it should take less than a minute. One is, do you know the name of the license, Troy, that is required?
Well, it depends. It actually depends because I mean, there's a license for everything. So if it's like a migrant, oh my gosh, yeah, good luck with that. If it's a migrant traffic, good luck. A whole nother licensing is pregnant minors. I should say, pregnant migrants. And I don't think there's a single person in the United States that has a license for migrant minors who are pregnant. I'm not aware of a single person that has that. So it means that those kids are doomed to stay in the system, be bounced around until they are actually released to their custodial parents. And then, of course, those people want those babies as well.
It's horrible. Okay, and last question. I saw that you guys have 51 safe houses. Are any of those located in the United States?
No. We do have a safe house here in the United States that does not have the licensing that is required. We have another safe house in another state that does not have the licensing. And we have various other places here in the United States that is not legal and not licensed that we're working on.
Thank
So
you.
don't say any more. We appreciate all of the work that you're doing. It's just an honor to have you here. Someone who's really doing the work, like so many others on this platform. But you know, we've got you here, and we appreciate it. Let's see if Prometheus can get his question in. I think it'll be the final one, and then if you need to leave, Pastor, you 100%. You've given us an hour and a half of your time. Prometheus, go ahead.
Daz, thank you, brother. It's such an honor, Pastor Troy, to finally speak to you. I've been following you for so many years. And for everyone who's been listening, he doesn't talk about it, but he has saved, I think, more than 20,000 kids at this point easily. So, just thank you from the bottom of my heart as a brother in Christ for what you've done. You're a true inspiration to so many of us. And I also know you love numbers. You love numbers in the Bible. You're a Bible nerd, much like myself. And I truly believe that we're in the last hour of the last days. Daz, bro, I don't think it's an accident you're bringing us all together at such a time as this. It's literally written in the word, at midnight a cry was heard, behold, the bridegroom is coming, right? And I truly believe we're at that hour. Pastor Troy, so many questions to ask you and so little time. Please, first of all, do this again with us. I think you can hear from so many of our voices here. We truly love you and the work that you're doing, along with Pastor Allen, Joseph Z. You guys are truly amazing souls and heroes in this movement. But my question to you is about this midnight hour. Prophetically speaking, I believe that we're at this second seal of Revelation because this is the year of the fire horse. I don't know if you know that. To him was given a broadsword to kill many. We've seen 50,000 Iranians slaughtered. In Jeremiah 49, the Lord says, in the latter days, I will set up my throne in Elam. I believe that's Iran. There's many who are seeing both. I work in the world of blockchain and cryptocurrency, and by the way, we can have a conversation about that another time as well. How to bring that sector into a lot of the humanitarian work that you're doing. But I believe that we're coming into the black horse. There's an economic event that's coming in the near future, and then after that, Joseph Z has seen this, Brandon Biggs has seen this, many in the prophetic movement have seen another disease coming. So that'll most likely be the pale horse. So all of that to say, how can the body of Christ come together at this time in your eyes to be part of this end time harvest of souls, as it's written in Isaiah 28, when the Lord says, when you see the fig tree blossom, know that summer is near. Summer is in Isaiah 28, the great summer harvest of souls. How can the body of Christ come together to manifest this end time harvest together through all this tribulation we're coming into? and and how can we support you going forward in your mission as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prometheus. Man, I call you blessed, my friend, and thank you. Well, number one, I think that the church, I mean, if we don't think that the world is going to do this, why would they do this, if the church isn't going to do this? We got to believe that the return of Jesus is actually a good idea. And everybody's like, well, just because we don't understand it or because, we have different phases of life or what, we got to believe that is actually a good thing. And the second thing that goes with all of us, gathering together is we all draw these lines in the sand of things that do not matter, because most pastors, I'm just going to say this. Most pastors stay in their office and they're mad about who doesn't go to church. Well, for those of us that are out there and we're involved in this, like, look, I don't have time for that. We have to get in this fight. It's what sent me down the rabbit hole. It's what, rescuing all these kids. I appreciate you saying that we've rescued over 20,000. We've rescued 12,600 out of trafficking, but we've rescued a lot more kids than that and put them in schools and put them in homes and those kinds of things. So I do appreciate you saying that, brother. But again, I get a lot of credit that I don't deserve. I have such amazing teams throughout the world and have throughout the decades. I get a lot of credit I don't deserve, but I also get a lot of blame I don't deserve. So that works out pretty good, I think. And the other part, I'm trying to think what the other part of your question was. I think it was just about the timing of the Lord. And I think that it was also about, I think it was just about these prophetic cycles that we see. One of the things I think that everybody here, whether you're Christian or not, is we're all connectors of dots. And if we're going to be connectors of dots, we must be collectors of dots, which means we got to look up from our own agendas and actually keep our eyes open and see, in my opinion, what is it that the Lord is placing directly in front of me right now to steward? And how can I be a part of that? In feeding the poor, in taking care of hurting people, in rescuing children, that should not be a controversial issue among the body of Christ. And it's unbelievable how controversial it is. And so I agree with my non-Christian friends that go, I see all this crap going on in the church. Yeah, brother, you don't know the half of it. I've seen it all throughout the world. What I also see is that the answer to that, in my opinion, is good, godly people in the name of Jesus fighting this thing, because I don't see any other people group on the planet Earth that we can hope that's going to show up. I mean, Hollywood isn't going to do it. We could go through every people group that you can imagine. Who else is going to show up if we don't show up? I'm actually a international peacekeeper for the United Nations. I actually have a UN badge, and I can promise you, the United Nations is not going to show up and is not going to actually fight trafficking. The United Nations is actually part of the problem. And I promise you, we cannot count upon the United Nations or anybody else to do this. This is up to good, godly people who are selfless enough to love people that they don't even know and get in the fight. I hope that answers your question, brother.
No, it deeply does. And if I could briefly just say, like, one of the things that I've tried to do, Pastor Troy, is I've literally tagged BlackRock, World Bank, Keir Starmer, whatever, and I've tagged them with hell testimonies. And I know that's not something that is orthodox, but we serve a good God for sure. God loves us. God gave his son to die on the cross for every single one of us. But you will either meet him as loving savior or you will meet him as judge. And I think it is so important that we remind the monsters of this world that there is an eternal judge, and that, holiness and righteousness matters, folks. Okay, be ye holy as your Father in heaven is holy. And I know that's not, a popular message, but I'm not here to be Mr. Popular here. I'm here to tell the truth the best I can see it. And I know you're very much the same, Pastor Troy. So no, you're absolutely right. It's up to good, godly people. And I think if we're to hold these organizations' heads to account, I think the church needs to be preaching a bit more fire and brimstone, frankly speaking, because it is better to have a millstone tied around your neck and you be thrown into the bottom of the ocean than to hurt one of these little ones. Certainly, if you listen to the hell testimonies, hundreds of them at this point, people who've clinically died, been there. I sent you one, by the way, Pastor Troy, of Howard Storm, who was shown alien races by the Lord Jesus after being rescued from hell. I think you'll really appreciate that. But, they say the worst torments in hell are reserved for the phony Christians. Okay, the ones who wore the badge but used it to abuse people like Daz and many others. My brother, my heart goes out to you, by the way, for that. It's absolutely criminal what you and countless others have experienced in this regard. But this is a divine realm, folks, and God God is not a God of messing around. I can absolutely promise you that. So anyway, Pastor Troy, thank you for all that you do, and I'm praying for you, and I'm going to do absolutely whatever I can going forward to help you continue on your mission. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that, my friend. You guys be in prayer for me as I go to DC tomorrow. Again, I'm bringing all of these agendas to the policymakers tomorrow, and it's a great honor to be able to do that. I've been invited quite often recently, saying, what do we need to do and how do we need to do it? And I'm doing the best I can, so I really do appreciate your prayers. Thank you, friends.
Thank you, Pastor Troy.
Daz, just real quick, I know Pastor Troy has not asked us for money in this space, but I will most certainly ask for money in order to support Pastor Troy and the work he's doing. Daz, you made a comment about, how we sit around all day, talk, and we're not do. We need to support the people who we believe are authentic and who have integrity and who are out on the front lines of this mission. I have posted the link for donations for Pastor Troy's group. It's down in the purple pill, so it will be there forever for whoever listens to the space in the future. And remember, we don't have to give, $1,000 a month. If a bunch of people give $10 or $25 a month, because a lot of people are struggling, and we understand that. But if it's on your heart to help support this mission, you can give just a small amount, and a lot of people giving a small amount makes a big difference. So that's down the purple pill desk.
Thank you so much for that. I would never come first time on somebody else's platform and just ask people to give. I would not do that. So I'm very grateful for you to do that. However, I will say this. For every 1,000 kids that we rescue, it costs about a $2 million bill. It costs about $2 million to rescue 1,000 kids. And that is not raising them. It's very, very expensive. It's a big money pit. But anyway, thank you very much, man, for saying that. I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Wow. Yeah, the reality that you've brought to us today, my neurodivergent mind is like, it can't cope. I'm just processing everything. So let me throw it to whom. Go ahead, to whom. And I know you've got a dip soon. Thank you for giving us so much of your time. Go ahead, to whom.
Mic check. Can you
Yep,
hear
we
me?
can hear you.
Awesome. Wow. For a long time, I haven't had such a easygoing space. Don't mind my wild children. It's that hour before bed. First and foremost, this has been one of the greatest spaces. Kudos to you, Darren, and Fringe, and Troy, Pastor Troy. Not the rapper, Pastor Troy. I knew I recognized that name, Pastor Troy, the rapper. Far from that. You are a superhero, like I mentioned. My kids are getting wild. I apologize. Quick question. Did someone mention that you accept cryptocurrency for the donations? Is that a thing, or am I mistaken?
No, I don't think I'm set up for crypto. I don't think I am. So
Happy to help you with that, by the way.
okay, well, help me out with that, man. If that's easy for somebody to get in a fight, then that's awesome. And so, but I don't know anything about that. So yeah, you got to help a brother out.
And I bring that up, and I'm done, Darren. I gotta tend to these kids, but I'll hang a little longer because a lot of us out here, we don't like sharing our personal information, and just as much as we don't trust a lot of the organizations when it comes to children and just other things that we talk and discuss on these spaces, anything that's attached in the digital world with finance, for me personally, I don't like anything other than cryptocurrency where it's not attached to any of my personal information. So it keeps that anonymity. And if you need help, there's a lot of brilliant minds on this that could get you into the right direction. It's totally safe, transparent, and highly secured, which is something good moving forward, especially with the cause and everything you've been doing. I just want to say, if I don't get another chance, I truly appreciate all your work and everything you've been doing. Thank you, Pastor Troy.
Thank you, brother. And that's a really good idea. I've actually got my tech nerd is sitting here next to me, and he's sitting there. We're laughing about this. Go, yeah, that's actually a great idea. So thanks so much, man, guys. This has been a great privilege to be on here today. I'm about to have to dip, as Brother Daz says. So thank you again. This has been wonderful.
No, you're welcome. It's been a true honor and a blessing having you here. I'm sorry for those who didn't get a chance to speak with you. Fringe is saying next time we have guests, we're gonna have to give them more time, and we're not gonna bring people up because they've got more to say. And she's right. When it's Duma and Fringe and they have guests, Pastor Troy, they will be just the two moderators on the stage with their guests for 6 hours, and they don't bring no one else up. I just don't know if I can hold that conversation. But if Fringe is ready to hold it, then we're probably gonna. Fringe, you can do it. I know you can do it, Fringe, isn't it?
Darren, I have to cut you off. Sorry, because my kids are now calm and they want to say hello. Sorry, I have to. Hi. They have to. They have
Hello,
to
Junior.
rectify their
Hi.
and jump
Well,
in the car with their
hello,
baby.
hello.
Hello,
Okay. Have
guys.
a good evening, everyone.
Have a good evening,
Okay, they're 5 and 3 and they're wild. Thanks, Darren. Sorry about that.
No problem. No problem. So, Pastor Troy, I know you have to go, but will you promise that you will be back with hopefully Pastor Allen as well? And remember, at some point, Joseph Z too, yeah?
Absolutely. I'll tell you, there's another guy named Darren Stott who I think is smarter than he's certainly smarter than me. And Joseph Z's a very good friend of mine too. And I'll tell you this, one of these days, for this space, we ought to put together a trip and we ought to go to Mexico and you guys come visit one of our homes, talk to our girls, visit all of our rescuers. Maybe we could put something together here in Texas. I got a place named called Redemption Ranch, and we could have our rescuers come out, and they're big special operators, and that's a fun time. We should do that sometime.
Wow.
Would love to be a part of that.
We're gonna have you back, Pastor Troy. And I feel like with the UFO stuff, we didn't cover that much, maybe only in the beginning, but that's why I think you need to come back. You know, I really want to speak about the prophecy, the UFO stuff, and continue to let people hear the amazing work you're doing. You are a hero. Fringe, you have any last words before we have to let him go?
Yes, my last words are go down to the purple pill, click on the donation site, and give this man some money. That's all I got.
Thank you so much. Daryl, if you're quick, he's still here. Go on, Daryl.
Oh, it's been real quick. Two questions for you, Pastor Troy. And again, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Two questions. Number one, with the children that you've rescued, and I imagine particularly as it applies to maybe the ones that were gifted, what's the most unique story or the most unique experience that one of these girls has shared with you that made you said, oh, like, oh my God, or this is incredible, like levitating a car or something maybe. And question number two is that a Stetson hat? It was not a Stetson.
Uh, No, it's actually not a Stetson. Thanks for asking. No, they're actually made by Jimmy the Hat Maker in Montana. He makes all my hats for me, and we have ranches, and we do. My kid, I got a kid that's a cowboy, and we do cowboy work, and it's also very therapeutic work, horse therapy, and working cows, and it's good for both the rescuers and also for the rescued. So we're very much into that. So thanks for
Yeah,
asking.
I need to know
The
how to
most,
order one from him because they don't make mine style anymore. I need a good hat maker. Stetson quit
oh
making.
man, I'm telling you, just look up Darby, Montana. Look up H&H Hats out of Darby, Montana. And they do all the hats for Yellowstone. They do all the hats for all those kinds of things. And so I'm actually good friends with those guys, and they actually support our ministry as well, Brother Daryl.
All right, thank you for that. And now for the most incredible story from one of the people you've rescued. And I just pray for your
But
safety.
that's not really quick though, Daryl. Like he's been trying to go for like 30 minutes.
Yeah. Really, really and truly, I tell you what, I will start off with that on the next one if you guys will let me. Is that is
If you
that is
can
that fair enough?
remember it, yeah, because I'm just
I
trying to
can.
respect your time. If you can remember that and Daryl's here, we will let you start with that because I think that is a great question. But I'm just like, the man said that he needed to go like 30 minutes ago. And that's what happens when we have great guests. Everyone just wants to know. They have so many questions. But don't worry, brother Daryl, we will have him back. I already hear from Pastor Allen, and he loves coming to these spaces. So thank you, Pastor Troy. It's been an honor and a blessing, and we will let you go, and we will see you again soon. All right.
Well, the honor is mine, Daz. God bless you so much, my friend, and thank you guys, all of y'all, and I look forward to doing this again. Thank you.
You're very welcome. We will start wrapping up soon, guys, just for the recording now that they've both left. But I did see I never say his name right. Bartimeus? Is that how you say it, Fringe? Bartimeus?
Hey, it does.
I say Bartimaeus, but
Bartimaeus.
Yeah,
I could be wrong.
it's
Yeah.
Bartimaeus.
Bartimaeus.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, it's actually Aramaic for Timothy. I just want to let you know, guys, unfortunately, I got into the space really late this morning, but I put a number of links down in the purple pill in regards to agencies that do the same sort of work that Troy does. It's Take Flight Survivors, Disrupting Traffic, Shatter the Darkness, and also Whispering Ponies Ranch, which is an organization run by Skywatch TV and Defender Publishing. And that is for kids that have been trafficked or abused in homes. And it's basically a rehab center where they get to interact with animals and ponies. And it's about trying to build back some positive things in their life so they've got a foundation to start living life from. So if you're interested, have a look. All very worthwhile organizations.
That's
And
amazing.
listen, oh, sorry, Daz. Listen, you guys, if I would have said give $5 except for inflation, right? So today's $5 is like 50 cents. And so when I said if you could give even 10 or 20, $25 a month, maybe even, or even just one time, it all adds up. And if you can't even do that, repost the link, share the link, repost a link. We can all help in whatever way we can. I think this man does come across as very genuine and authentic. I certainly would say, do your own due diligence before you give to a charity, but let's face it, this man's job is to do things like go before Congress and to make sure he's appearing and trying to solicit donations. I mean, that's just a fact. They cannot do this without money. You heard Tony Merkel say last week that if you want to actually do something, this is what we can do. We might not be able to go out on the front lines and go out and rescue children, but they need money in order to do that. And that it might sound kind of gross and creepy, but that's just a fact. And so I just want to put it out there. If you can help, please do. If you cannot help, please repost the link. Thank you.
To reinforce the support you, Fringe, what was the number he figured? He said for every 1,000 kids rescued, it took, was it $1 million?
He
Yeah.
said $2 million,
Is it 2
Daryl.
million, he said?
2 million. And you guys heard about all of the red tape and the awful things. And I just wanted to support Turtle. Now that our guest is gone, I'll go ahead and ramble for a minute. But I wanted to support Turtle in what he said earlier. Like, who do you call? I will tell you, my family was involved in human trafficking for 100 years. This was a family business. In the 1980s, my biological father was running an international human trafficking ring. One of his, he called it a brothel at the time, was in San Francisco. The entirety, and I'm saying this in a general way, there might have been one or two guys who were not involved, but the entirety of the San Francisco Police Department, and please understand, I did 18 years in law enforcement. The entirety of the San Francisco Police Department was involved, the upper management, the city manager. Dianne Feinstein was already slated to become a United States Senator. She was involved. Her husband was involved. This goes really deep. And so I was kind of feeling Turtle when he said, yeah, who do you actually call? Because To Pastor Troy's point, from law enforcement point of view, our hands are very tied, usually by the Department of Children's Services. And so when we go take kids out of a home, we're very much regulated by the Department of Family and Children's Services. And guess who's trafficking the children? The Department of Family and Children's Services. So it's really disgusting, you guys, what's happening out there. And so all those things that he pointed out, how difficult of a job this is, especially in this country. And what Turtle pointed out is you can't even trust law enforcement when you call them with a child who needs to be taken from a home. These children are returned to their parents. The traffickers are their parents. Pastor Troy brought up a very dark part of this, and that is that once these children are actually impregnated, they're waiting for that child to come out. I have had cases where there are ultrasound photos being shopped on the internet and plans already being made for the child in the womb. This is so disgusting. You guys have no idea how disgusting and dark this gets. This is all real stuff that is happening. And so I just want to encourage anybody who might be led to support if you can, and if you can't, just please share the link. It costs money to do this job.
Fringe, because we got Turtle back up. I know that the Turtle has so much that he has to say, but I keep saying that, I don't hear him say it, and he's like, I talk all the time. And I was like, well, mate, it's the nighttime then, Turtle, because the daytime Turtle's probably at work and just listening. So we're having Turtle on the stage. Can I just ask Turtle, like, was that a good space? Is there anything that you want to add in terms of what you're aware of? Turtle, I call him the man of mystery. Turtle, don't mess with Turtle. Turtle, are you still with us?
Yes, sir. My wife just laughed at the way you said turtle. Turtle.
Turtle.
Cute.
This is man, it far exceeded my expectations, and that's why I'm quiet. I was quiet, because if the information is better or more or than I'm going to offer, then I'm just going to sit still and listen, because man, those two guys are absolute, like to whom said, they are superheroes in this world. And I like to think that a lot of people in this room, under the same situation, when they were approached by some woman in Guatemala, would have done the same thing and taken them two girls and started the same journey that guy.
Well, how about this
Real
Turtle
quick.
though? That he could have been arrested for that and put into a third world prison and never seen again,
I didn't
right?
even think of that. He put
That
himself
was
at
very
risk.
dangerous what he did, Daz. Very,
Yeah,
very
absolutely,
dangerous.
absolutely. And there's but great space. I mean, absolutely fantastic space. That was a lot of information. We have phone numbers to walk away with. We have
Where did
something
they
that
put
we
the
can
phone
use to
numbers?
help.
Where are the phone numbers, Turtle?
I was just saying it like off the cuff, but
It's at the nest. Carmen's posting the
Oh,
nest.
okay. Thank you. I was just checking.
Dad,
Okay.
if you click the
yeah,
post,
I
she
knew there was one. I
opened
had
up the
already looked
website.
at their pages. Yeah, there's numbers, but he said he was going to share one in the space that we could put in the. So yeah, if that goes into the nest, make sure it goes into the bubble, because the nest disappears, but the bubble stays.
Well, thanks for being there, Turtle.
Yeah, Daz, let's make
Yeah.
sure that Carmen, could you post that your post there? Could you post that in the purple pill down in the comment section so it stays with the space? And so anybody re-listening to the space will also have access to that.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Carmen. Carmen, do you have any final thoughts before we get back to these hands? Carmen, another one that I invited because I know the work that she does. Was that helpful, inspiring? It's also quite disturbing, isn't it? Every time I just so disturbed what's happening, but we have to have these conversations sometimes, you know. Where are you at, Carmen?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime we talk about children being abused in any way, it's disturbing and heart wrenching. If it's not, we got a problem. I mean, very informational, right? Like educational. Sad that we have to be educated on these things, but we do know how to respond when you see things. Know who to contact when you see things. Don't react, because you can hurt the child worth yourself or someone else. I mean, great. I mean, just he's a badass, and I'm with Fringe. What he did was very dangerous. Catching that, and I was just like, wow. You know, the extent he goes to put his life on the line for one he's never met or doesn't even know is it's a beautiful thing. That's humanity. Is what it's about. Loving one another and caring for each other when in need. And dang, you know, God bless him. God is good. And, you know, I know he's the plan, and I'm going to continue doing the work I do for the children that can't speak. We are their voices, and we have to continue being their voices. So thanks, Daz. I really appreciate it, Fringe, and to whom, Daz. It's a blessing and an honor to be here and continue to learn about how we can help the children.
And we're going to have them back 100%. Thank you for being here. Victor, we haven't heard you. I know you was on the phone, but Victor, no one of my buddies. I want to just check in with him, make sure that he's okay. If he has any thoughts, he was here like at the tail end. So, Victor, you good? Before we go to these last
Hey,
hands,
how you doing?
all good, man. Did you get to hear them a bit, or was you always on the phone?
Yeah, no. I got off the phone before I had you know, jumped in here. I'm trying to get the dog on. And it's good, man. It's good. Sorry I have, you know, wasn't able to fully be attentive throughout the whole thing, but I was here for most of it, and I think that's good, Des. You know, it's like I told you. By the way, hey French and to whom, it's good to see you both. Everyone on the panel. And no, I will not name you all one by one. Say hi. I'm saying hi to all of you because well, it's good to see you all, and collectively, I will give you all a big heart because it's good to see you all supporting one another. And I will say, please support the host and the co-host and each other on the panel. For those of you in the listener section, please do come up. Now is the time that we're going to be going over the next 3.5 hours, the consortium
Don't
of
listen
evidence
to
at the.
him.
I'm just kidding. I'm totally playing. I'm totally kidding. It's going to be 4 hours. And so as we go into the page one, no, I'm just kidding. No, but it's really support the host and the co-host, and get the message out there and the information that you come across. And we're all in this together, obviously, right? And the more that we don't allow things to, I guess, to steamroll whatever's really being focused on as far as what we're trying to not only bring to light, but to stop, we can effectively stop it together, and we can prepare this planet, this world for a better future for those who we leave it to. I fully believe we could do that, Daz, and it's good to see you continuing to go forward, and as well as everybody here with you, brother. But yeah, I'm here. It was great. It's definitely great.
Thank you, man. I was just thinking as you're saying it to support the host, and I forgot to say to people to tell them to follow Pastor Troy before he left, but hopefully people did. And like you say, if we put the stuff in the bubble, they'll be able to reconnect. But yeah, if you like these kind of spaces, we will have them back. If you haven't followed me, Fringe, to whom, do it now, because we are going to be wrapping up very soon. And also follow these guys on the panel. They're all great space hosts and people on spaces, and set the notifications to always. That way when we're in spaces, you'll be able to find where we're at. So with that, let's hear from, is it 𝗶𝘁𝗶𝘁𝗶𝘁? I'm never going to say it right. 𝗶𝘁𝗶𝘁𝗶?
That's it,
He's
Daz.
laughing at me.
Um,
𝗶𝘁𝗶𝘁𝗶. There you go.
Bartimaeus.
I just wanted to say for those in the space that please don't think this is something isolated to the United States. It's not. It's going on in countries all over the world, and they're not independent. All these organizations are networked with each other internationally. They trade children over international borders. This is a global problem, and it is rooted in spiritual powers that are behind the scenes. So I greatly encourage you, and I agree with Fringe, don't just give willy nilly to any organization. Dig into the organization, find out what they do, find out who runs them, and find out for yourself whether they're trustworthy. Um, the one I put in there, Shadow the Darkness, that was run by 𝗓𝗔𝗓, who's no longer with us. But he, in my opinion, was one of the generals on the front line dealing with all this sort of stuff. And amazing, amazing people. Um, but the organizations I put down there are actually run by survivors that are now helping other survivors. But this is definitely a global problem. And what Fringe said too about the San Francisco police being involved, here in my state, in Australia, we don't have individual county police. We just have state police and federal police. And the police here in my state have been involved in this from the very beginning. That's why I'm cagey about certain things I say, because in telling my story, I could get myself in very serious trouble. But it also goes to the heads of government, and it doesn't matter which political party is in government, they're all involved in it. And I stole a term from someone else that Australia is run by a pedocracy, and it is a thriving industry, and the authorities have got all these things up that, oh, we're working to do this and do that. It's all a lie. It's all a bloody lie, because the authorities are the ones running the whole show.
Well, that was a mic drop moment. Thank you, 𝗏𝘁𝗍𝗂. Bloody hell.
That, if I may chime in about the UK as well in that regard, because Bartimaeus, brother, it's very much the same. One of my good friends, she was a survivor of satanistic ritualistic abuse. They took her to an underground chamber, and she has all these cuts she's shown me along her spine, where they cut her and essentially bled her out. And did their rituals and what have you. And we've had the rape gang inquiries silenced in the House of Parliament. Think of how low you need to be to shut down even an inquiry into thousands and thousands of young British girls, primarily being abused by these monsters. And so this is, as we've been discussing, as Pastor Troy has been highlighting and everything, this is a global international network. This is not accidental by any means. The government is deeply involved in it. And so this is why, I tried, I think like so many of us here, I tried to find justice in the justice system. There's no justice in the justice system for the most part. They're bought and paid for as well. But there is divine justice, folks. And I think, it is important that we realize, as it's written in scripture, there is nothing hidden that will not be made known. And we're in the age of, this is like people read Revelation and they think, oh, it's apocalyptic. What does the word apocalyptic mean? It means revelation, right? It means that which was hidden finally come to the fruition. So Daz, this is why I love your spaces, brother. Like, we come into these gatherings and we can speak honestly and truthfully about what is going on. And the thing about truth is, like, as it's, it's cliche, but it's so true, which is that it's like a lion. You set it free, it can defend itself. And I think the whole world has woken up since Epstein and whatever to the crimes that are being done to children. One of the reasons why they do it, Daz, I don't know if you know this, it's because they're the closest thing to God. They can't hurt God directly, so they hurt his kids, literally. And that's part of the reason why. It's the most depraved thing. But if we have the guts to all voice our voices together, and like I said, literally tag these people with hell testimonies. Okay, I tag the Red Cross with hell testimonies and others, to remind them that this is that's where your eternity is. Okay, you think any of the Rothschilds are spending their time in heaven right now, right? or any of these monsters from the past? Okay, none of them. Okay, they threw away eternal life for eternal damnation and torment for doing these things. And I think it's important that we remind them of that constantly. So yeah, just wanted to bring that up, Bartimaeus. It's a way to hold these people to account, remind them
Got
that
it.
there is divine accountability.
Thank you, Prometheus. Really need to start wrapping it up now. Let's go to the final hand. You know, for me, with these very heavy topics, it's a lot. Having over 200 people as an energetic, sensitive person, it's a lot. Yeah, and then it's just the two guests, it's a lot. So you can feel it. My energy is going now, so I can't like continue the space any much longer after this hand. All right, so we're gonna go to this hand, and then I'm gonna play us out with a track. See if Fringe and Team have any final words, and then we're gonna close. Reba, it's good to see you.
Hey, Dad.
Hello, Reba.
Hello. I got here a little late, so I don't know all that was conversed, but definitely book noted and gonna listen to the beginning.
You'll have to catch the replay. It's not gonna. It's only
Yes,
like a 3 hour space, so that's why I don't keep them too long, so people can enjoy the replay. You know.
and sometimes we have 3 hours to listen to your space, so don't discount because it's so long. There's a lot of good information in here. Um, I have a question. I'm in the United States. How do people feel about Amber Alerts? Because we had an Amber Alert down here in Texas just a short while ago, and it was for an 11-month-old baby, and the last name of the baby matched the kidnapper's last name, so I had to presume that was the mother. And for the first time in my existence, I was like, wait a minute, there's more to this story. I did not want to share that Amber Alert because I didn't know what was going on. Was that poor girl, I mean, what was she in do they have the right to take that child away? I didn't know enough about that, and I felt so bad that I'm questioning an Amber Alert. That's insane. Am I a horrible person for that?
Nope.
Yeah, no, no, you do need to know that as well, because it's a lot of different organizations. Uh, Man, like I said, Dad, you about to close. It's definitely heavy. One thing I tell people to pay attention to is places that have earthquakes, just like Venezuela, where these supposed agencies that we can't go to on normal circumstances go down to and exploit people in disaster situations. Happens all the time. It's very important. A lot of this trafficking happens there. I stumbled upon it researching Haiti, so it's a lot.
Well, this was out of Odessa, Texas, which is not the grandest town in the world. 100%. I
Mm.
mean, that's their jail system. I mean, it's a bad place to be in for somebody who is innocent
Is it,
and vulnerable.
is that close to the border?
It's not as close to the border as you would think, but it's still, I mean, anything in Texas is 8 to 10 hours away. So close to the border?
And I
Define that.
I'm just saying like that borderline when Pastor Troy was talking about there's no license for like the pregnant children and stuff. The first thing that popped to my head was the border when he was like, there's no license for kids that are pregnant that are something. I forgot who you said. It was like three like stipulations. So as soon as you mentioned Odessa, Texas, and after he said what he said, like a light bulb went in my head. Like I wondered if this is by the border, but the whole of Texas, for the most part, or at least the bottom edge of it, is by the border, where a lot of this
I will
movement
give you
happens.
that, but I'm up in the Panhandle, and there's a lot of human trafficking here. They have caught a lot at our local airport, which blows my mind because everybody wants to think it doesn't happen in my neighborhood, and damn it, it does.
Yeah, yeah. It's happening everywhere. We got it. We got it. It's happening everywhere. All right. Thanks for coming up, Reba. To whom you still with the kids? Do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, they're not in bed yet. I just want to say, great space, co-sign with almost everything that's been shared. Really amazing space. You two crushed it. Fringe, Darren. I'm looking forward to many of these.
You keep
And
saying
like I
Fringe
said,
Darren. You're the co-host as well. Why you keep doing
I'm a
that?
listener. I'm like what Turtle says. I like listening and
So
learning.
what are you saying? Next time I don't make you co-host.
I'll host. You could be co-host.
No. We got
Look at that. Hey, buddy, it's called 1776 2.0 for a reason.
This guy.
Hey, you got to remember behind the scenes, Darren and I, we talk all the time. It's like, when should we do it? I said, bro, you're going to do this one 2 days before July 4th because everyone's getting pumped up. We feel great. The energy is shifting. The Great Awakening is here. People are starting to remember again. That's the key word, is to remember again. And everything's just been aligning so perfect. The synchronicities, the way you orchestrated the space and how everyone conducts themselves. Bravo to the both of you. And fine, I'll give myself a little tap on my neck, considering I don't have a back in this profile pic. Love you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you to him. Fringe, any final thoughts to leave the space with? And then I'm going to play us out with a track.
Yes, of course, I have final thoughts. Great space, Jazz, to whom I'm so happy to be here with both of you guys. Yeah, I mean, let's just hammer it home. We have been sacrificing our children to these entities for thousands of years. It has not stopped. It's still going on today. It is very heavily involved with these UAP, this UFO phenomenon, the alien abduction phenomenon. We have abductees who have seen, I myself have seen people in cages in these deep underground military bases. We have abductees who have seen these entities actually consuming human flesh. So this is going to be a part of the human trafficking that we maybe didn't get into today, but it's all the same thing. There's just a lot of crossover here. And just like with the tapes that Red Panda played, he played those clips. Our very own United States government, at bare minimum, are contractors for these private companies like Raytheon and Northrop Grumman are involved in the trafficking of these children. And so all of these things that, maybe people thought they were conspiracies for a very long time, they're all coming together in a convergence. They are all related, and it's something we should all be talking about. So thank you guys all for the space and for everyone who listened and everyone who jumped up in the space with these guests. Thanks a lot. I appreciate all of you.
You're welcome. And thank you, Fringe. You bring so much knowledge, sincerity, and authenticity to this conversation. This space wouldn't really be the way that it is without you, without To Whom. I'm good at being able to cultivate and create the space that I envision. And this is the third one that we've done now with the pastors, and there will be more. I'm feeling like the next one probably maybe alien abductions and religion or something like that, because they love this topic. I can feel it, they're already messaging me. So we'll do another one. Won't do it next week. We'll give ourselves a rest, maybe in a couple of weeks' time. So look out for that one. Just know that for me personally, this was healing on many levels, not only from someone who's got that abuse in my story, but also someone who's experienced a lot of trauma when it comes to the religion side of things, and I spoke on that. And the way how they, I guess energetically held me, I felt that. And it was healing. I appreciate all of you for coming in, all of you showing support. It was a phenomenal space, and I'm looking forward to the next one.